She's fading. We gotta go. I'll get my car.
What mine?
Yours.
I gotta get me one of those.
So, we know the Flash movie is coming out, and there's this big question. Is it a good movie? Should SnyderVerse fans go see it? And you know what? I thought, let's bring on someone who has seen the movie in advance. So he's been around for a while, but has just recently come out into the limelight, so to speak. So please, in this short time that I've known him, I've really enjoyed getting to know him. Just seems like a really cool guy, and really honored to have him on my channel. So please welcome Josh Herrera, or Herrera. I don't know how you pronounce that.
What's up, Bad Dan? Josh Herrera. How you
Herrera,
doing?
okay, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Really good. Really excited to talk this about the Flash movie, about your experience on the Flash movie, because you have a unique perspective. You saw it not once, but twice.
I did. I was lucky enough to see it twice because I have been going to screenings actually now for about over 10 years, 12, 13 years as a fan. And I happened to realized that there was one on the 22nd, which I got into initially, and then there was another one that happened on the 30th in my hometown. So yes, I did get to see it both times, actually.
Wow, lucky you. And who we got in the chat? We got Sickness. And
Sickness.
of course, Austin had to stop by for this. This is a Flash stream, so. And you're right, Austin. That's right. I am wearing it.
Hey, the movement. Strong, alive and well.
And
that Cartoons and Cereal was awesome, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I love watching just the old Justice League animated series. Like, it was my favorite show as a kid. I love that series, and it's really amazing how much inspiration it's like Zack Snyder must have taken from the series. And not a lot of Superman smiling in Justice League the animated series. I have to say, Superman does not smile a lot, and there's a lot of destruction.
And he's got a lot of anger. He's kind of evil Superman. Wouldn't you say a little bit? Like, he's a little Cavill-esque, I would say.
Very Cavill-esque. But, as long as Zack Snyder's name is not in the credits, then it's okay, according to some people.
Yeah, exactly. We know. Go ahead.
I was going to say it was fun, and you're right. So anyway, what you were saying?
No, I was just going to say, as Zack Snyder fans, what was Dawn of the Dead? Like, did it come out in 2004, 2002?
4, I think it was
2004. So we're going on 20 years of this man's career. So, in the mainstream media. So we know how the antis are. But, I think the Snyder Cut kind of it converted a lot of people. And I was lucky enough to actually watch. I missed Cartoons and Cereal Good Austin. I was around for Twilight parts 1 and 2 in the chat, because that's one of my favorite episodes. We had Big Daddy Darkseid in there. We got Superman going ham. We got Batman Wonder Bat happening on New Genesis. So I was around, but I had to get to watch the Snyder Cut with my family, actually, for the first time. My birthday's happening in 3 weeks from now. So I will be out of town for that. So they were like, well, let's get together because we want to watch the Flash movie with you. So I said, well, you saw Justice League in 2017. I took my nieces. And I said, that does no longer exist. According to the Flash movie, that did not happen. So
hold off on that. We'll get to that.
Okay. We'll get to that.
But actually, so hold on. Sorry, StreamYard is being very...
Yeah, a lot of people issues. Sickness has my shirt. All right. It's a good one, right? Got everyone up in there.
Oh, yeah. I love that shirt.
I went to the WB tour when I was in at Full Circle, and they had like a variation of this, and I almost got it, but I was like, nah, I'm spending a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the thing with all these conventions, money. I mean, and then this hat cost me $50. The only reason I bought it, including shipping, the only reason I bought it is because I needed like a good Flash hat for the Flash movie. You can't really see it well, but like Batman, the bat symbol is behind it.
Where'd you get it?
DC Shop Online.
I'm gonna have to get me a set. I'm gonna have to match you, Bat Dan.
Good, yeah, you should. It's a really cool hat, and I'm wearing it to support the Flash movie because I think people who've been SnyderVerse fans who have been around for a while know that we should support these characters. And so, kind of before we kind of go into like your thoughts on the Flash movie, I just want to get a little background about you. How long have you been like a Zack Snyder SnyderVerse fan?
Yeah, so I would say honestly, when I became a big fan of his, just let me preface to say I listened to your interviews that you've done on your channel, and I'm honored to follow your birthday stream, which was amazing. Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
And I'm very honored to be following Mikey Sutton as well as your last guest, and I think Leon also was a guest of yours. And who was your first interview?
Sky.
Sky, that's right. So these are amazing people that I'm following, and I don't really feel worthy to be in the same conversation with these people, but I appreciate the opportunity to tell my story. So yeah,
Former Twilight of the Gods, though. The bug didn't feel worthy.
True. Very true. Very true.
Just wanted to say that real quick. And
So
we
I
saw
did.
that in.
Yeah, you're right. You're very right. Very similar to, I would say, kind of, I listened to Leon's interview with you, and when I really started to pay attention to the name, Zack Snyder was probably 300, like most people. You know, that movie was, I would say, revolutionary as a graphic novel. You know, I had no idea. I grew up a comic book fan, mostly DC and Marvel. Spider-Man and Batman were my dudes. So because of the animated series that I watched as a kid, that led me to start reading comic books. So I was not familiar with 300 at all. And just the way that was shot and the cinematography, just the performances, the aesthetic of the entire look of the graphic novel brought to life was amazing. And so I watched that movie, but I didn't really know about the name Zack Snyder at all until that Watchmen trailer that Leon talked about. That trailer literally blew my mind seeing it. And I don't know what movie I saw, but that Smashing Pumpkins theme mixed, I think Dodie Dorn, who was at Full Circle on the panel for Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think Zack said that she actually cut that trailer for him. And that trailer is still one of my favorite trailers of all time. So I knew nothing. I read comic books, but I didn't read Watchmen at all. I knew nothing of Watchmen at all. But I saw that trailer and I was like, Zack Snyder? Who's that guy? Not knowing that he had made 300 that I had just loved, you know? And so just the way that trailer was cut and was mixed, it sent goosebumps. The trailer sent goosebumps up and down my arms, you know?
His
So
trailers will do that. Zack Snyder's trailers.
I freaking love the movie to this day. I actually, it's right here. I just picked this up from Best Buy. Still got the receipt on it. It's the ultimate cut of Watchmen in 4K that Leon was talking about.
Hold on a second. Keep talking.
Okay. Yeah, I actually got, I had remembered, when was it? It was like in 2011, I think. Best Buy had the box set. It came with like a collector's keychain of the smiley face and something, but it was on Blu-ray. And I ordered it for pickup at Best Buy, and they got me the DVD version. Yeah, we're twins. What's up? Now I gotta get
Still
the hat.
didn't find time to watch it though. It's like such, you know, because I always want to watch the long Zack Snyder version, you know, from BVS, not to watch the cut
Right.
versions.
And what is I forget the runtime. It is like 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit longer, but yeah, I haven't watched this in years, so I saw this was on sale at Best Buy, and I literally it still got my name and everything on it, so picked that up. But yeah, that's when I really started to pay attention to like Zack's work, and from there I was pretty much like paid attention to his name and anything, you know, that he was attached to. And what did he where he jumped right from Watchmen was in 2009, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2008, 2009. That it was.
Did you hear my?
Yeah,
sorry,
your phone ding.
Yeah,
let
me try to. Yeah, sorry about that. Let me try to move that. Yeah, so I remember it was like 2005, I think, or so. That he, I'm sorry, 2005, 2009. He directed Watchmen, and what did he direct right after that? Owls of Gahul, I think.
Yeah, Guardians of Gahul. It does have a Guardians in the title, I'm pretty sure. Or
Legend of the Guardians, Owls of Gahul.
Okay, yeah.
So I didn't watch that until later on. So, but I paid attention to his name because at that time I think I was in. Sorry, I got that's my actual phone. That was my laptop. I got all kinds of notifications going up.
No problem.
Try to minimize those. So yeah, I don't think I watched Legends of the Guardians in theaters, but I loved the trailer because there was a 30 Seconds to Mars song attached to that as well. And once again, I was always interested in it, but for one reason or another, I think I was graduating from college at the time that came out. And I think I was just like saving up for college and didn't have a lot of money on expendable. But so then after that, I think what was next in his filmography? It was Man of Steel, right?
Hold on, let me check. Yeah, that's where we got the internet. I think Man of Steel probably was next. I think it was Man of Steel. Let me just double check on that. Yes, they have a filmography section. After Sucker Punch was between Man of Steel.
That's right. I forgot about Sucker Punch. That was 2009 also, right?
2011.
2000. Oh, okay. Right after Legend. Okay. So I did see Sucker Punch in theaters. Loved it. And I have not, to this day, I have not seen the director's cut. Because we're supposed to get, the Snyder Punch, release the Snyder Punch of it. But there's apparently a director's cut as well. And I haven't seen that. Have you?
No, I actually haven't seen the original one even.
Definitely recommend. He got a lot of hate for that. But I think it's misplaced or misunderstood hate for some reason. That
sounds about right for Zack Snyder.
And I think that's where it really started getting, like, you could sense the negativity start. Like, I think the Watchmen adaptation change from the graphic novel was a big controversial point for some comic book fans. I thought the change was amazing. I don't know how you felt about it, but a giant squid showing up out of nowhere for, general moviegoers, I don't think would have made much sense. However,
I agree.
I did go on to love the 2020 Watchmen series that did, adapt the squid, but also included Mr. Jeremy Irons himself, Alfred Pennyworth. Did you watch that?
I have actually not watched Watchmen yet either.
So you've seen the movie, though, of course. You have the 4K, so I imagine.
Yeah, I haven't had time to watch it yet, though.
All right, cool.
But I will see it, though, before Rebel Moon comes out. I'm going to try to do a whole series where I watch all the Zack Snyder movies and do reviews on them. So
I did love Sucker Punch, and then that's after Sucker Punch was Man of Steel, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. After that was Man of Steel.
Remember the headlines, because at that time, so I'm gonna bear my cross for everybody in the live chat, and I try to be as genuine and authentic and honest as a person as I can, because I believe in the morals of Wonder Woman. Lead with love and truth in your heart. So I was a diehard Smallville fan. Watched that thing. I think I started it in season 3 and then went back, watched all the season 1 and 2 and followed that journey. And I think that concluded in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah.
And you've loved Smallville as well, I'm sure.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen every episode.
And we know about, John Glover uneasiness that we have going on recently. So I, coming off of Smallville, when I saw the press release that, Zack Snyder was directing, I was like excited. But I was one of those people that was like, back in, I think, 2010, was campaigning like Tom Welling needs to be the cinematic Superman. And I was younger, I was a little naive.
I get that. I mean, there are people who still campaign for Grant Gustin.
Exactly. You bond over a series that goes for 10 years. You bond with that, not only that character, but that actor. You see them emotional state, in various forms in different episodes and different trials and tribulations, and you connect yourself to them. So of course, like how we are in this community, we are really connected to Zach's characters, right? So at that time, I was connected to Tom Welling. So when I found out it was not going to be Tom Welling, I was a little like, why? You know, I didn't understand. I was like,
he didn't want to wear suits.
And now, you know, once you know behind the scenes stuff, you kind of contextualize a lot, and it helps me as a moviegoer understand and accept things more honestly. And so we have people in this community that, you know, will let things from behind the scenes slip. For me as a person, I like to know those things because in my mind, my ignorance is like, I'm watching a movie and I'm like, why isn't this Tom Welling? But when you find out that the man didn't really want to be Superman at all, and I don't think he ever really played Superman per se, he was always playing Clark Kent, the person.
Oh yeah.
And
100%.
I love that. He's one of the best Clark Kents ever, I would say, you know. But so yeah, going into Man of Steel, I think I was really projecting that I wanted to see whatever Tom Welling's Superman was going to be after Smallville ended. That's what I wanted to see. That tone, that, you know, kind of nostalgic tone, the classic Superman, right? So I did see, so my first cinematic Superman was Superman Returns. Came out in 2006 with Brandon Routh. And at the time I was blown away. It came out on my birthday, actually, in 2006.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And my girlfriend at the time, her mom actually bought me and my friends tickets. And so I remember, I'm sorry, I don't know why my notification, I'm trying to, okay, how do I turn this off?
Man, someone really wants you right now.
Yeah, someone's trying to get in touch with me, and I'm like, I'm not available, so sorry. All right, let's turn the phone off, maybe? I'm going to turn the phone off. Okay, so Superman Returns was my first cinematic Superman movie, and it blew me away. I was literally like, we were sitting super close, and I was like looking at the screen because I had never seen Superman on the screen before. I watched the Christopher Reeves movies, you know, but not in theaters. So I convinced myself that I liked it and that it was good. And then looking back after I rewatched, okay, my phone is off. How do I still get these? Marcus Red, more. Do you know how to silence phone notifications on a Mac?
On a Mac, I think there should be a way you can like snooze notifications from that particular contact.
Okay, here you go. Notifications. Sorry, I apologize. I should have done this. All notifications when display sleeping.
No problem.
Anyways, here's the content. Ended up being.
I feel this would be a really funny clip.
Josh's phone still blew. And literally, like, my phone was like, you know, hours before it was like nothing was happening, and then now everyone just wants to get in touch with me right now. I don't know what the problem is. So what was I saying about Superman Returns? Okay, Superman Returns was my first cinematic Superman. Didn't really deliver in a Superman movie that I would say, right? Like, did you like that movie, or did you see that movie?
I saw that movie. It was a movie that I liked initially, but as like time went on, I'm like, yeah, it wasn't that good.
Wasn't all that. And okay, now I see. Hide alerts. Okay, excuse them. All right, good. I went into that movie expecting to see the Superman that, you know, I had imagined in the animated series and I grew up with, right? And I liked it initially as a story, but not as a Superman movie, I would say.
Yeah, makes sense.
But so yeah, so I had a lot of projections for Man of Steel, right? And I was younger, so this is now going on 10 years ago. we are literally, the Flash movie released, we are going on 10 years, like almost to the day, right? Because Man of Steel was released June 14th. And
sometime it was, I know it was June 2013. I know that.
And I think initially the Flash movie was dated to come out on the anniversary of Batman 1989. And that's, so I was one day when Batman 89 came out, I was 1 day away from being 1 year old. So I was literally born just in time to experience Michael Keaton as Batman. Oh, thank you, Alex. My friend Alex is systems, notifications, messages. Thanks. I'm barely bad at this, y'all. Sorry. I have a Mac and I don't know how to use it. So system notification messages. So hopefully that turns that off. What was I saying? So yeah, so the Flash was supposed to come out on the anniversary of 1989. And then I was like, why did they move it up? Turns out, Man of Steel anniversary. So when I watched Man of Steel, I was honestly, when I first saw it, I was with a couple of friends and I liked it as far as the fact that it delivered the Superman action that I really wanted to see on the big screen. Loved Cavill. Lois's Amy Adams' Lois Lane, I was a little hesitant because I loved Erica Durance so much on Smallville. So much. But I really loved how they incorporated Lois into... Oh, I love you too, Desiree. That's my friend Desiree. Went to high school together. That was my prom date. That's my prom date, Desiree. So anyways... But I was honestly a little taken back because in 2013, there was a lot about DC Cinematic Universe, right? This was going to be their Iron Man, so to speak. So I was comparing it to this movie needs to set up essentially the DC universe going forward. And there were Easter eggs that Zach included, right?
Yeah.
But he also subverted a lot of expectations, I would say, about the Superman mythos.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get Clark Kent until the very end, right? So,
well, reporter Clark Kent. I mean, technically, he was still Clark Kent as a baby and as a kid.
This persona, I would say, of Clark Kent was not really established until the very end of the movie. So I was honestly a little hung up on that the entire time, and I turned to my friends and I said, I don't know if I liked it. Just because I'm looking for messages and I don't see it.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Mikey Sutton initially did not like Man of Steel either.
Okay. So, I mean, we all gotta, I'm just trying to be honest with y'all about my journey into, this movement, because I'm sure somebody will come up and be like, you didn't even like Man of Steel. And I said, at that time, I don't know if I liked it, because I was a little, like I said, there was a lot of stuff I was projecting on what the movie should be, right? Okay, I'm just gonna turn off.
And if it makes you feel better, I defended Justice League at first because I was in denial.
Oh, I did too. I defended Whedon before I saw the movie.
Even after I saw the movie, I was in denial that it was bad. I was just like,
I took my nieces to it, and they loved it, and I, at the time, loved it as well. I was very brainwashed and ignorant because of the campaign that WB did, Oh, we'll get there. Okay. So, anyways, like I said, loved Cavill, was a little iffy on Amy Adams, but I loved that she was in there. She was a go-getter, and when I really thought about it and stepped back, I was like, okay, why didn't you really love the movie, right? The first time you saw it. So I saw it in IMAX, opening night, I'm pretty sure. And it was because I was projecting on what a Superman movie should be. And I think most Zack Snyder antis, right? I think when it comes to DC, his DC antis, it's all around Superman, is what I assume. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I'd say Superman and Batman.
Mm-hmm. And so I understand why people are not fans of Zack Snyder's DC, because I was kind of at first taken back. Zack really threw me a curveball. He gave me a movie that I wasn't expecting. And then my friend told me, he's like, Josh, what's the movie title? Man of Steel. It was not called Superman.
Oh,
this is his origin. This is him starting his journey to becoming Superman, right? It's not called Superman at all. You see the yes. That doesn't mean it's Superman yet. So I started thinking about it, and I went back and I watched the movie again. And when that lens of like, okay, this is a person who is literally found out they are an alien being from another planet and have these incredible powers. And the weight of the world is on their shoulder to do good in the world, because he was raised with a lot of morals and values that I was raised with. I was actually raised pretty much, I mean, my parents were in my life, but due to circumstances, my great-grandparents really raised me. I was blessed to still have my great-grandfather in my life, but my great-grandparents are very much Ma and Pa Kent, and instilled into me old school values and, you know, do good, you know, as much as you can. Like if you know better, you know, you should do better, essentially. That's what they taught me. So I really rewatched the movie.
Good lesson.
Yeah. I mean, and I rewatched the movie with that lens, watching Diane Lane and Kevin Costner, and was like, wow, this is really speaking to me on a level that I didn't even really take in the first time, because I was so focused on what should have been the movie that I wanted, right? Instead of what is the movie actually telling me. And I found out when I removed all my projections that the movie was speaking to me, actually, on a deep, like subconscious level that I didn't even realize. So upon rewatches, I was like, okay, it wasn't necessarily the Superman movie I wanted, but it was a damn good movie. And I was kind of like, all right, let's see what the next one is. And I was really impressed. Loved Michael Shannon as General Zod. Loved him. Absolutely sold. He is actually a Texan like me, so kind of like felt a little like kindred spirit in his performance, I would say. But I love villains. Like, that's the thing for me. One of the reasons why I like Marvel. I do. Spider-Man and X-Men are reasons why I love Marvel. But I gotta say, you know, when it comes to villains, I think DC just they have it for me personally.
Oh yeah, 100%. Even Marvel fans admit that the villains aren't always that good. There's some exceptions here and there.
Yeah, there's some exceptions. You know, I love Loki and Thanos, but I mean, General Zod, I loved him. I was just sold 100%. So then BVS was announced at that Comic-Con. Did you see that leaked Comic-Con trailer that is infamous with Harry Lennox?
Yeah.
Iconic. And that trailer had really started me on my journey, because I started to try to go in Comic-Con in 2012. And I was really ignorant to the process and how it worked. But so I would literally try, but I wasn't really trying. I was like, oh, let me try to buy tickets. And I would always like try like 3 months after they had sold out, and I wouldn't have registered, you know. So I tried, but I wasn't really trying. After that trailer leak with Batman v Superman, I was like, I'm going to Comic-Con. And I think that was 2014, Comic-Con 2014.
It was announced in 2013 that
okay.
Man of Steel.
It was right after Man of Steel.
Yeah, they announced that pretty quickly that Man of Steel 2 was going to be Batman v Superman, or have Batman in it, not necessarily.
That's what it was. Because I remember not being like, I remember not initially not, really being sold on Man of Steel, and then rewatching it, and then very quickly being on board right after that. So that makes sense, because if it came out in June, Comic-Con's every July. So it would have literally been like the next month. So I would have had very little time to have like not, been sold. And when I found out Batman, Ben Affleck was cast. Wait, he wasn't cast until later on in the year, I don't think, because it was announced.
Yeah, that's correct. It was in 2013, but it wasn't right away that he was announced to be Batman.
Right. So I remember, yeah, because there was speculation, and that's one of the things as a fan I love. And that's why I started getting onto YouTube, was around that time in BVS, because I'm a huge Batman guy, and I love the Dark Knight trilogy. I was actually living in New York City when Dark Knight Rises and Avengers both came out, and so I saw them, the premieres. I didn't attend the premieres, but I went to like stand outside to watch the celebrities, and Christian Bale and Anne Hathaway and Tom Hardy came out for Dark Knight Rises, and then I didn't see any of the Avengers cast, but I was there like opening night in New York City, Times Square, and it was just electric. Like, it was just so electric, because the Battle of New York City had happened in there. So in BVS, Dark Knight Rises had filmed in New York City too, so that's why they premiered it there. So I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, cool. So I remember joining the YouTube space because I was like, who's gonna be Batman, and loved speculating like who's gonna be. So at that point, I didn't know who Batman was gonna be, but I was like, okay, this Zack Snyder guy, he's got some ideas, and I gotta see this. And then Ben was announced. I loved it right away. I don't know how you felt, but I
didn't know Ben Affleck is an actor, so I didn't have much of an opinion. But I know a lot of people, like, you're in a minority, because a lot of people didn't even give it a chance. Like, a lot of people hated the idea of Ben Affleck being Batman, but it's good to hear that you actually, from the get-go, were excited about him as Batman.
The moment I wake up. I'm sorry, no. Leaving on a jet plane. That's the song that Ben Affleck sang in Armageddon. Leaving on a jet plane. I was a huge Armageddon fan. So that's his performance that really, like, I saw Good Will Hunting. I didn't see any of the View Askew, the Kevin Smith movies at that time when I was younger. But I had seen Ben Affleck in, roles, in minor roles. And I was familiar with him, but I really became like in love with the man during Armageddon. That is just one of my favorite movies of all time. It's coming up on its like 20th anniversary or something like that, 25th anniversary, I think, this year. So immediately when I found out he was Batman, I was like, that's genius. It's genius. Because the man literally had a Hollywood persona just like Bruce Wayne, with his relationships with J-Lo in the media. I was like, it's perfect casting. So that's when I really started becoming like watching YouTube shows. But I think, like most people, I kind of got caught up in like the Colliders, the superhero, what was it, like superhero hype, and something else like Humberto Gonzalez, I think, had like a show. So I started, focusing on the mainstream YouTube channels. Little did I know they were connected to studios, and were pushing narratives and whatnot. So
yeah, definitely Jeff Johns too. So we've all been there.
We know all the behind the scenes now, but at that time I was very ignorant. I didn't know. So I was invested in those channels, not religiously. I was just kind of keeping my ear out and like, okay, who's going to be Batman? And then he was cast, sold. Then I saw BVS. Loved it. And I will say, I get why BVS is so controversial to this day and is still talked about 7 years later. Because once again, Zack Snyder subverted all our expectations, right?
Yep, 100%.
How did you feel the first time you saw BVS?
Put like this, I was screaming in my car, "Fuck every critic," because of how good that movie was. Even the theatrical version. You know, it was the
I
theatrical
loved it.
version. It was good, and I'll be honest, I didn't even understand why people hated the movie. Like, I'll tell you this, like, I didn't even draw the connection that Batman stopped fighting Superman because their moms had the same name. Like, that never clicked to me that was the reason until I saw people saying it. I was shocked that people drew that conclusion from that.
Same. I had been reading comic books. I'd watched the animated series, you know, and the thing is that that's so genius about Chris Terrio and Zack Snyder doing that is that they stepped outside the box and was like, wait a minute, you know, like we really have something here that not a lot of people, I don't think, focus on, because you don't see a lot of stories in the comics that feature Martha Wayne. You know, she's dead, obviously, in Batman stories. You know, there's been some interpretations and things. But at that time, you know, this is pre-Flashpoint. We didn't really have like a Jokerized Martha Wayne or anything like that in the mainstream. So that twist blew my mind. And I really will say that I think BVS was made on a level that I don't think a lot of people were ready for at that time in 2016, right? There was a lot going on in our socio-political landscape, right? Tensions were high. We had the MCU ripping off our ideas once again, changing Captain America, Serpent Society to Civil War just because of the BVS announcement.
And it wasn't even that good of a movie, honestly.
I agree. I was actually, honestly, I was disappointed that Spider-Man was shoved in and we got less Black Panther because of it, because I loved Chadwick Boseman's performance as T'Challa in that. But we want to get there. But I mean, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that good. Anyways, so yeah, I understand why some people have a hard time investing. I love seeing BVS in theaters. Never exactly right. Sickness.
Yeah.
It was really made, I think, for DC fans, right? If you are a hardcore DC fan, you were all in. And I think it really took, like, Zack Snyder, we know his filmmaking language. He understands filmmaking. You show, don't tell, right?
Right.
And with his painter's background, you know, he made some of the most gorgeous shots and cinematic shots that I've ever seen. And seeing his Batman, seeing what he did with Superman was already amazing. Like the first flight, I forgot to mention this, and when I saw Man of Steel, first flight, I was, of course, like, loved the suit, loved everything about first flight, gave me goosebumps, gave me chills, everything about the fights with the Kryptonians, with Zod, freaking amazing. So knowing, oh my God, Batman's gonna be in here now, I was like, let's go, like, let's see what's going on, right? So I did take a lot of friends with me to BVS, right? And I loved it, and they, to my face, you know, because they were my friends, they were like, because they had heard negative stuff, right after it came out, and we saw it. Like, I saw it initially right when it came out, and then my friends and stuff didn't see it till 3 weeks later, and so they were like, oh, it's not that bad. And so I was like, oh, so did you like it? You know, and they were like, yeah, I liked it. And so they're my friends, and so I guess, you know, they were maybe just telling me what I wanted to hear, because at some point later on, and some of these people are like related to me, like cousins and stuff, and I have a very good memory, you know, and so they'll tell me stuff now, and they're like, yeah, you know, I never really liked Batman v Superman. And I'm like, you were in the freaking theater next to me, and you were like, it wasn't that bad, but I liked it, la, la, la. And now you're like, so I think a lot of the negativity converted a lot of people over time to like hate the movie, right? Or maybe people just didn't understand it, you know, to the point where it didn't really soak in as much. And when people started hearing the hate towards it, it convinced them that this movie is trash. This is a trash movie. And when I saw that Rotten Tomatoes score, I was like, are you kidding?
Tomatoes.
Are you kidding me? Like, I was just like, wow. I understand why Rotten Tomatoes is a tool. I understand it. You know, most moviegoers, they're not like movie fans like us, right? They're not, you know, invested with the development and stuff like this. They're just going to get away from their troubles and watch a movie and experience the popcorn flick. And I think some people weren't really wired after seeing Civil War came out in March. I'm sorry, BVS came out in March, right?
Yeah.
So people were like, okay. And then they saw Civil War after that. And so I think what really happened was the campaign that started when Zack Snyder released Watchmen carried over to Sucker Punch. A lot of the negative hate. He tried to get canceled for being anti-women because of that movie. And misogynist, right? Which is completely opposite because the commentary on that film, and you haven't seen it yet, but it's went over people's head, I think. It was on a different level that people didn't understand. And with BVS, I think the same thing happened. You know, Zach is really expecting you to pay attention. And there's visual cues that would tell you throughout that movie what Bruce Wayne's mother's name is and what Martha Kent is named completely throughout the movie, right? But once again, as you and I, fans who know this stuff, who know the animated series, who know the video games, it just blew people away to the point where they were like, oh, I don't get it. So that really, as a Zack Snyder fan and as a Batman fan and as a Superman fan, the backlash, it really kind of got to me. I was like, oh, like, I think a lot of people don't fully understand, appreciate the visual storytelling. Yep. Picture, it's worth 1,000 words. It's usually bringing words to life. Yeah. Sickness.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I don't, when people like trash Zack Snyder, I'm like, I mean, he's literally doing the film handbook, right? Like what you learn in like film, like he's literally giving you a movie and you're supposed to experience and pay attention. So whether or not, you know, people didn't understand it or they just hated it, whatever, I loved it, right? And so when I found out Justice League was being made, I don't know when that was announced. Do you remember when Justice League was announced?
I don't know, because I think it was just kind of I think they had like a whole slate before BVS even came out. So I mean, once it was like Batman was announced for the sequel, I just kind of knew they were making Justice League at that point. So I guess when they officially announced it, it might have flown over my head because it was like water wet type of thing. Like, no duh, a Justice League movie's being made.
So, as I mentioned previously, I had loved Batman v Superman and kind of started ignoring the hate, right? And I was just like, whatever. And at some point, I found out Justice League was being made. And I was like, by hell or high water, I am going to Comic-Con to see the Justice League panel. Sure enough, my first San Diego Comic-Con was in 2016. So, after Batman v Superman had came out in March, in July was my first San Diego Comic-Con. They started on the schedule with Suicide Squad 2016 with all the entire cast, Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Jared Leto, like everyone. And I don't think I think it just said Warner Brothers time block. And it was like a 4-hour block or something like that, maybe 2 hours. I don't know. Can't remember now. That was amazing. I don't know if you go to Comic-Con, Bat Dan, or you watch the streams or anything.
I haven't gone to Comic-Con. A little bit younger and money is a thing. Plus, I get claustrophobic very easily.
And yeah, the crowds are not for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, but for me, I'm just a passionate person. I think that comes off in how I portray myself, how I talk, what I dress up like.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I got to be there, hell or high water. And sure enough, I got in by the luck of the draw. So they surprised us. I don't think it was on the schedule, but Zack Snyder brought out the Justice League cast for the first time, including Henry Cavill, who we had seen, sacrifice himself to save the world, fighting Doomsday. And sure enough, he showed up, and it was electric. Like, I have videos that I posted on Twitter. I don't know if anybody saw those, but man, they brought out they showed like a little promo reel. I'll never forget this, and I don't think it leaked or anything, but it was the slate like you were talking about, Bat Dan, and it was like it was like Man of Steel, and it had the S, and it was like Batman v Superman, and then it had the Bat logo with the Superman crest in it. Oh, that's right. The bat kind of appeared out of the S symbol, the Superman's shield.
Yeah.
And then Suicide Squad logo showed up. And I will tell you, to this day, Batman, I'm blown away that Suicide Squad exists. Like, I never in a million years thought that movie, because of the title, because of the nature, it's not like, it's not like A-list, I would say at the time it wasn't like A-list. Of course, Joker and Harley Quinn, but like no one really knew who Deadshot was, right? Nobody knew like Amanda Waller. So
even Harley Quinn wasn't that known. I mean, she was creating Batman the Animated Series, so unless you watch that series, Harley Quinn is only mainstream because of Suicide Squad.
Right. And I still to this day, I have so
nice
little Easter egg. Joker, Harley Quinn, JH, my little initials right there. So,
oh, damn,
little bit of a fan of Joker and Harley's toxic relationship, and maybe that says something about my own life. But, anyways, so yeah, that logo was shown. Wonder Woman, and I was like, they're making a Wonder Woman movie. Like, we had known because of BBS, right? But seeing the logo. And then after that, Justice League. I was like, oh my God. And then after that, the Flash logo showed. And then it transformed with a lightning bolt into the title Flashpoint. And I was like, holy sh, like, oh my God. And then after that, I'm pretty sure it was Green Lantern Corps. And Cyborg. Oh no, Green Lantern Corps, and then the Batgirl logo showed. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then no, I'm sorry. The Batman logo showed. And then the Batgirl movie logo showed. And then the Cyborg movie showed. So I never have seen that leaked, but I saw that in Hall H in 2016. And they had a mini directors panel of all the directors show up. So Zack Snyder showed up because he's directing Justice League. Ben Affleck showed up because he was directing the Batman. Rick Famuyiwa showed up, director of The Flash. James Wan showed up, director of Aquaman. And then, of course, Patty Jenkins showed up for director of Wonder Woman.
I think I saw something about the director showing up. I think David Ayer was even in there, too.
Yes, David Ayer. Yep, for Suicide Squad. So that, because he talked first. That's right. I forgot about him because he talked first. And then it went from David Ayer to Zach because it was literally in the release date. So, it was, David Ayer, then Patty, then Zach, then Ben, then Rick, and then James Wan. And I will never forget that Comic-Con because that was, in my opinion, the height of my personal DC fandom. Because I was just like, look at what we're getting. Still waiting on a few of those projects. Yep. But, so ZSJ on Netflix. Hashtag. Sell SnyderVerse Netflix. Anyways, we'll get to that. But, so that was my journey. And of course, I was just locked in the development of Justice League, not really knowing all the drama, right? And then I found out what happened with Zach being no longer on the project because of circumstances that we all, are very emotionally invested in.
AFSP.
Yes, hashtag AFSP.
Actually, reminds me, I'm going to post the link to keep talking, I'm going to post the link to the Martian Manhunter shirt because that money goes to AFSP. So
yes, please do that. Please support AFSP, y'all, because that's when that happened. I think I realized how. So I don't know if you know this. I have a background in like psychology. I'm a social worker, And so I try
Yeah,
to
I think
put
you
myself
mentioned that.
as a person, and when I interact with anybody, I try to be very empathetic and put myself in that person's shoes, right? And I started to realize online when I was reading reactions on Zack Snyder no longer being on the project, there was a lot of course, the hate followed him, right? And it's like, oh, good for him, just good that he's not on it, all the haters. But then people who loved him, loved BVS like me, had the opposite reaction, right? I think a lot of the movies and the art that Zach makes speaks to a particular type of person and really resonates with somebody who is maybe like a little bit more emotionally intelligent and invested. Just my own perception. That's just my opinion. And then I started to realize and started to profile Zack Snyder fans as emotional people, because like the Martha scene, I had friends who watched it with me, and initially they like laughed, right? They were like, "Oh my God, that's really gonna make you stop laughing." But then in freaking Avengers Endgame, when Captain Americas are fighting, Bucky's still alive. Oh, that really that touch, And I was just like, oh, okay, all right, whatever.
Selective
Anyways,
criticisms.
that's and I guess maybe they're more bonded with Captain America. That's fine. That neither here nor there. But it's just like it's interesting, right? And I think, like I said, a lot of people just they hear negative stuff and they don't want to be associated with something that's negative, right? So then they're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna trash that because it's cool to like trash this, right, online. And because of 2016, what we were going through politically, everyone was emboldened to speak their mind, and we still are to this day. We all have these devices, right? We all can tell the world what we think. I'm on this platform right now. I'm telling y'all what I think. You have a YouTube channel. You're telling people what you think, right? But everyone has an opinion. An opinion doesn't have to threaten you, right? And I think Zach's art existing, unfortunately, for the haters, really gets under their skin. And I think people are threatened by his art existing in the first place, which is like, it's art. If you don't like it, don't watch it and just move on. Why do you constantly have to, go in on the man, So anyways, I was devastated by what happened to Zach. And just by reading those reactions and stuff, I started to kind of like formulate theories and hypotheses about the type of fans that are on this online space. And it wasn't until 2017 when I found out Joss Whedon was taking over that I really started watching YouTube daily. And I was watching John Campea, and I was watching Collider, and all of the usual suspects. I don't know if you've done that as well, but I assume a lot of people in this fandom kind of got caught up in those YouTube channels that were like the mainstream or had insider information, right? And we were all just trying to figure out what's going to happen with this movie. This is the movie that me as a DC fan have waited for all my life. I've been a Batman fan since the Adam West 1966 days, because my grandfather would record old episodes for me on VHS. I was one when Michael Keaton was our first cinematic mainstream blockbuster Batman. I grew up with Kevin Conroy, Batman the Animated Series, and I loved the Super Friends cartoon. And I had no idea that was my first exposure, knowing that Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash were all in the same universe with Batman. I was like, holy shit. So I've been waiting for a Justice League movie all my life, essentially. So I think I started getting brainwashed, right? That's when I was watching YouTube every day. I was watching John Campea, I was watching Collider, and just taking what they would say and was spoon feeding me here. And it was like, oh, Zack Snyder, lying about the circumstances of him leaving the project was, looking back, it's just fucking gross, right? It's just horrendous what the man had been put through, him and his family online, and then to have mainstream media kind of turn on him completely after BVS and just perpetuate just gross, toxic, clickbaity headlines. To that point, I just want to say, like, guys, we are still, 2016, like the election and everything, it taught all these media companies, like, wow, we can get away with anything. And they're still doing it to this day, right? They are still doing it to this day. And we're going to get there. But, I think a lot of people's ignorance and reading clickbait is what's carrying over to this hatred or this boycott of the Flash movie, that people are just not they're not keeping up with what's really going on. And movie making and development is something, that changes. It's fluid, it's like water. So what up, Sky? How's it going, man? I saw you. I was catching up with cartoons and cereal. I got to the part where you joined Austin, so I'm still a little behind, but I'm gonna check it out, see what y'all had to say about Justice League season 2. But yeah, so that's kind of like how I really started watching YouTube daily, and I convinced myself that Joss Whedon was gonna be the savior of the DC. I'll be honest. To this day, I really do love the first Avengers movie. It's probably one out of the MCU. It's one of my favorites. I actually, in 2021, my mom actually was living with me due to circumstances, and I literally caught her up on like we had priorities, so she had to do all DC first, and she had seen Man of Steel before, but she had never seen BVS. So we watched like the end of Man of Steel to catch her up, and then she watched BVS. She watched Suicide Squad. She watched Wonder Woman. She watched everything. And then I was like, okay, now we'll enter Marvel for you. Because the first thing she watched with me was WandaVision and completely loved it. She's like, who's this Wanda? And I was like, well, you got to watch the Avengers. And so we started with Avengers, and she liked it. So I thought, okay, Joss Whedon's going to save DC, right? And nope. I did. I like you, Bat Dan, I did it again. I convinced myself. I was like, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. And I took my nieces to see it, and I took my family, and I mean, at the time I liked it, but I remember one of my friends from college, he saw an advanced screening with me, because I started going to advanced screenings in 2011. It was actually 2010. My college started, when I was at my college, they somehow had like contracts with studios where they would offer us free screenings. And so I saw like random, like one of the Pirates of the Caribbeans, I think the second one, Dead Man's Chest, for free, Talladega Nights, like what else? Just random movies for free. And so I think I got on like a list or something and found like a website. And so I was able to RSVP for advanced screenings. So I saw Justice League, and my friend, I'll never forget this, he looked at me and he's like, how did you like that movie? That was not Batman at all. And I was like, yeah, it was. Because I viewed BVS as like, guys, knowing the behind the scenes, like y'all know that they wanted Christopher Nolan, who had just had success with the Dark Knight trilogy, right? They wanted a Christopher Nolan Superman. And the man said, I can't do that for you. But you know what? I got someone who can. And his name is Zachary Edward Snyder. So for me, hearing that people hated BVS, I was like, y'all loved the Dark Knight trilogy. It's literally the same type of tone. It's literally the same type of sophistication, in my opinion. So why the hell don't you like, it blew my mind. So I loved that sentiment of Harvey Dent from The Dark Knight, the night is darkest before the dawn. And that always stuck in my head for Zach's universe. Once I saw BVS, it contextualized Man of Steel for me. So it made me like Man of Steel so much more, because I was like, oh, he's starting out as Superman. So you need Batman, the, broken down, weary vigilante who's been doing this for a long time, to come in and be like, look here, whippersnapper, this is my world. This is how we do things here, and rough up Superman a little bit. And ultimately he does. And Superman gets the curl, right? If you really pay attention to what Zach was doing, he roughs up the pretty boy and humbles Kal-El, Clark Kent, Superman. So yeah, I looking back, I bought into Justice League. And then in 2018, I'm sorry, and let me backtrack. The Monday after Justice League came out, I've said this on a stream, I think, with Sky or Still. I'll never forget being on Twitter and somebody had said like, "Oh my God, Joss Whedon is liking tweets about Zack Snyder movies being trash and Justice League being trash." I was
Oh
like,
God.
"What?" It's like, I saw a meme and I was like, I was at the gym. I'll never forget. I was on the Stairmaster. I started looking and I was like, I went through Joss Whedon's street history and I was like, wow, I saw them. I saw what the man was liking. I was like, I rationalized it. I was like, well, maybe he just saw, because I've done this and I'm sure you can go through my tweet history and maybe I liked something that I didn't really fully understand. I was like, okay, well, maybe he's busy and he's just like, liking something with Justice League and the tweet. So I was just so taken back by that, right? I was like, wow. And then now looking back, we were like, yeah, that was a hack job. That man, we don't have to talk about that guy anymore. Like Leon said. That's another one we don't talk about. But yeah, and then when I heard that the Batman wasn't gonna happen, I was livid. Like, so I held on to hope, and thankfully I loved Aquaman. I did. And I think we owe a lot. I've spoken about this, I think, on Cartoons and Serial with you in the panel, I think. Like, I feel really, really, I'm a huge Jason Momoa fan. I started watching him on, me and my aunt actually were huge Baywatch fans. So I watched David Hasselhoff on Baywatch, Pamela Anderson on Baywatch. And then when I got older, I think they did a spinoff called Baywatch Hawaii, which was one of Jason Momoa's first roles. And fell in love with him then and really started. I didn't really pay attention to him on like I think he was on Battlestar Galactica, some like sci-fi series. But
Game of Thrones.
And Game of Thrones. But when I saw he was cast as Aquaman, I was like, wow, I did not expect that at all. But once again, Zach being Zach, since I had saw BVS and saw that poster, I don't know if you saw the Unite the Seven, Aquaman with the trident.
Oh yeah.
It was like, oh, is he talking about the seven seas or are you talking about the seven members of the Justice League? Because we all know that reference, right? We understand that reference. So I saw that look and I was like, yes. And I loved Aquaman. I did, unapologetically. But I know that, some people have issues with that really being a different tone because they had removed Zach, right? And we're gonna bring all what I'm saying up with the Flash discussion later. But I would say look at the difference in Wonder Woman's tone compared to how she is portrayed in BVS. Zach set up this universe to allow people to have their own interpretation, right? He wanted to set the blueprint, the template, as it were, but those directors are free to, put their interpretation. And yes, technically, looking back, seeing Snyder Cut, there are maybe some inconsistencies between like Aquaman and, some other movies. But I'm a movie fan too, and I'm a DC fan, and I loved Aquaman unapologetically. But at that time,
accepted as not canon to the Snyder Cut. That's it. But I enjoy it.
Yeah, and you can enjoy it on that level, right? So, but yeah, at that point, because I'm so conflicted on Jason Momoa, I don't think we would be where we are or have the Snyder Cut if Aquaman was not as successful as it was. That's how I feel. So I think we owe a lot to that film for letting the opportunity for this universe to continue, because if that film would have flopped or underperformed, and that slate, I don't know if you remember, it came out in Christmas 2018. That was a stat. It was like Bumblebee, Mary Poppins, some other animated movie, and then something came out like a week before that, like a Marvel movie. No, not a week, like maybe a few weeks before that. Anyways, but Black Panther had came out, I think, the November before, but was still playing, I think, when Aquaman had came out. So yeah, so that's kind of my Zack Snyder journey as far as being in this Fandome. I know I went over an hour explaining that, but
That's okay.
yeah, I really was in 2018 just kind of like, all right, well, now what's going to happen? And of course, we know what happened after Zach was gone. And I'll bear my cross for everybody, you know, like I have my thoughts. I'm a diehard Batgirl fan, unapologetically, and Barbara Gordon specifically. I grew up on the 66 show, so my grandpa would record me episodes that were from season 3, which had Yvonne Craig as Barbara Gordon Batgirl, the first television on-screen Batgirl. So very fond of that character. And I still need to see that Ben Affleck movie because that was supposed to come out, I think, in 2018. And I think it was good.
Yeah, it was 2018, and then it got delayed, and then it was beginning of 2019 when he officially announced that he was no longer going to start it, because it slowly transitioned from Ben Affleck's Batman v Deathstroke movie to Matt Reeves' The Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson. First, it was Ben Affleck's not going to direct, Matt Reeves is going to direct with Ben Affleck. I mean, what was known publicly at least. Like,
right.
Matt Reeves was going to direct Ben Affleck's Batman movie, and then Deathstroke wasn't going to be the villain. Someone else was going to be the villain. And then eventually Ben Affleck announced he was no longer going to star in that movie. So that's how it kind of shifted to that. And, you know, and actually, you know, we talk about Ben Affleck. That's going to be our first topic of the Flash movie. But real quickly, just very briefly, what was Full Circle like?
Oh my God. So yes, I loved that. Like being in the theater, hearing the Kraken, what was it called? The Kraken? I forget what the name of the creature was, but hearing Mary Poppins as the villain of Aquaman, you know, I was like, this is amazing. She's not even in that movie, but she's in Aquaman. So it was I never saw Mary Poppins Return. So I've heard it's not really worth the watch. So I loved that. Full Circle was amazing, y'all. I mean, I wouldn't be on this probably stream if it wasn't for Full Circle. So I needed, I think, this event in my life. Just I had, you know, like most people, during COVID, I, you know, really went through like a depression, just being like isolated. I was in a really bad relationship. It was a good relationship for a while, but it was an 8-year relationship had turned toxic. And so in 2020, that person actually was a big comic book fan as well. And we saw all the movies together, but ended up, you know, turning toxic. And, you know, so we ended up, I ended up pulling the trigger and being like, we need to separate, right? And so I would talk to this person about comic book stuff and comic book news and casting and speculations. And then when that went away, I didn't have anybody to really talk about that with. I'd always watched YouTube. So the YouTube community kind of became like an outlet. And that's when I started to hear about Mikey Sutton and Sil Abdul. So
one of the good lurkers.
So because of what was happening in the world, I didn't really know if I would see all these projects. You know, I wanted to watch WandaVision, and I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to see it. So I read Scoops by Mikey Sutton just to figure out, what is this show about? And lo and behold, those Scoops, when I watched that series, were 100%. And I've read the Secret Invasion ones as well. So we'll find out if that is as well. But I have a lot of confidence. And so, yeah. Anyways, Full Circle, the first moment. So the first, what happened was I got tickets. I work from home, luckily, right now. And I was just lucky enough to score all 3 days. And I was like, I have to be at this event. I have to, because I go to Comic-Con every year, but Zack Snyder's not going to come to Comic-Con anytime soon. So this is a Zack Snyder Comic-Con, right? So I had to be there. And literally, Batman, as soon as I get there, I think I took pictures and outside, because they had like a little blow up orange circle because of the Art Center of Design, College of Design in Pasadena, where Zach went, where the event was. it's an orange circle for full circle. And so I took some pictures, but then I jumped in line, and guess who was right behind me? The first people. Scylla Abdul and Skywalker the Jedi. And so I didn't notice them, I don't think, at first. And then at some point, I did, and I took a picture with. I was like, "Hey, Still Nation, what's going on?" And I didn't know this at the time, but Still said that I was because I guess they had just gotten there, so I was the first person to recognize them. And there was another guy that Still had talked about. I didn't know this guy, but I guess he had recognized him too. His name was Grant, I think. And so we just were like, "Hey, Still Nation!" So we just kind of started, "Hey, welcome to the event." Started really chatting. And I said this on So Stream. I watch everybody in the Snyder to this day. Just once again, being 100% honest, I watch everybody. I watch people at the cool table, but I do watch people at the other tables just to see what's going on, what are they talking about. And I love to hear, because of what I've went through all my life, and not having somebody to converse with this type of stuff. YouTube was an outlet for me to kind of get my fix, as it were, my nerdy superhero, pop culture, movie news, TV show type fix of discussions and commentary and reviews. I like to hear why people feel the way they feel. As a someone with a psychology background, I always ask my perspective why. So anyways, the reason I say that is because coming out the door right after Sil and Sky joined me were people notorious in the other side of the table, and I was like, uh-oh, what's gonna happen? And nothing happened. Of course, it was all water. I think there was a lot of talk online and a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is gonna happen, or that's gonna happen," and then nothing happened.
Yeah,
so
it's easy to be tough behind a computer screen.
Yeah, but anyways, after that moment, I said something to him. I think I was like, "Oh, we almost had a moment there or something," to Sil. And he was like, I don't think he really understood what I was saying. He's like, "Oh yeah," he tried to play it off, I think. But the actual event, man, it was. I really wish you could have been there, Dan, as just a fan. I want everyone to experience it. It was I've said this before. I said this to Sky, and I said this to Sil. It really was crazy how, for me personally, and I think for a lot of people like Sky and Sil, things were happening at the right time for the right reasons. And there was just Comic-Con. I go to Comic-Con in San Diego. There is just a positive, uplifting energy because everyone's happy and everyone's, just a fan. And that was everyone at this event. And not only that, but it was also benefiting AFSP, which is a cause near and dear to my heart, as someone who's lost somebody to suicide in my family. So it was just amazing to be a part, seeing these people on YouTube and on Twitter for years that I had followed. And like I said, my Twitter use, I was always being called a bot because I wouldn't really use it as a form of social media. I literally joined it because in 2017, 2018, because of, I didn't really join the Release the Snyder Cut movement until 2018, I will say. But I've been on Twitter. This March prior to Full Circle, I saw that my 14th anniversary of being on Twitter was on March 23rd, 2023. So I've been on Twitter for a while, but I really started going and hashtagging Release the Snyder Cut starting in 2018. And now I've changed my behavior. I try to use it as more an actual social media, not just a spammer of hashtags, but I'm a real person. So Full Circle was me being hey, this is my handle. This is me. Beep, bop, boop. I'm a robot, but I'm alive as well. But yeah, getting to talk to Zach and meet him was just a dream. It was a dream come true, honestly, because like I said, after 2017 or whenever he left the project, I can't remember what year it was, but I was I'm never going to see him again at Comic-Con. And I don't know when I'm going to have opportunity to meet the man and shake his hand for making an amazing, not only an amazing cinematic universe, but characters that I've wanted to see on the big screen all my life. Right. And he was just really cool. So down to earth and chill with everyone. So easy to talk to, so approachable. like y'all have seen the video of Sky and Sil, you know, interacting with him, and even on my own videos, he's just a down to earth dude. And for me, it's kind of it contextualized why I think people, these executives, I think hate the man, because he's so genuine. So what you see is what you get. And I think a lot of people in Hollywood, you know, Hollyweird as it were, are not. And they're they're two-faced, and they're, you know, there's a lot of double talk, like we know some CEO of a certain studio, you know, likes to do in this fandom. So anyways, it was amazing. Debbie was amazing. Like seeing the panelists, like I know some people were, I guess, online overwhelmed by the panelists on like Man of Steel, but and even BVS, but it was amazing seeing Patrick Tatopoulos talk, DJ, like Damon Caro, the stunt coordinators, like some of the art center professors were even speaking on Man of Steel. It was just great. So if you haven't watched Full Circle's Q&As, definitely give it a look on I think it's the Viero's YouTube channel. I'm actually,
they're on YouTube now.
Have you watched them all completely?
Yeah, I've watched them. I've watched all the live Q&As.
So I'm literally at the, yeah, they are, right?
Yeah, sorry, there was a bug that just flew by me as you were talking.
Okay. Get that net. I have the same issue. I have a little bug zapper in my apartment for that same issue. So living in the South, you know, it's that season of the summer. But yeah, I loved it. And I wish every Snyder fan could experience it, because seeing Zack Snyder's Justice League on a it's funny, you know, I was late and I missed Cartoons and Cereal because I watched the Snyder Cut with my family, right? And I have a 4-year-old niece. And let me just tell you, I've indoctrinated successfully my nieces and nephews and little sister. They are hardcore DC fans. You know, I had to do it in a roundabout way. They knew about DC superhero girls before they knew about Batman, right? But ultimately, Batman showed up in DC superhero girls. And that inspired them to dress as Wonder Woman, Batgirl, Starfire, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn. You know, like they are DC fans, and that's why they wanted to see Wonder Woman. And I'll never forget my first niece. I took her to see Wonder Woman when it came out, and I'll never forget the look on her face when she saw the Amazons training young Diana in the beginning. Her jaw was like open the entire time, and I got so much joy seeing my little niece being so inspired by these powerful women, you know, doing badass warrior things, you know, that she's now 12 years old and she's one of the most badass people I know in my life. So I owe a lot to DC for inspiring my, you know, younger family members. And so I also want to mention my 4-year-old niece was crying and screaming when she found out that we were watching Snyder Cut at home. She was like, I want to go to the movies. And I said, I know. And she's like, I want to go to the movies. I said, I want to watch it on IMAX too. Trust me. It's so worth it. So seeing that on the big screen, man, it was electric. And Darkseid, Chris Terrio, and Ray Fisher just so happened to sit in seats right behind me during the screening.
Oh, wow.
So that was amazing, seeing them show up. And of course, the Batman himself, Ben Affleck, showing up and surprising us all was the best gift I could have ever asked for. That really just, wow. Seeing that in person, it was electric. It was like being at a Comic-Con. You could feel just electricity. And Ben had that ovation was amazing. And I think it was interesting how he answered him and Zach, how they answered certain Q&A questions, like Skywalker the Jedi's, and like my own question that I asked Ben point blank about his Batman script. And he initially had a reaction of, I think what I did is because I complimented him on Air, right? Because I had seen Air 3 times. I took my grandpa actually to see it, my great grandfather, who I'd mentioned earlier, pretty much the Pa Kent in my life. I had took him for his birthday to see Air. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I complimented Ben And then I asked him, oh, and by the way, about your Batman script, what villains were you going to use and what were you going to do with Batgirl? So, you know, I was kind of like pulling one over. I got him to smile, thinking like, okay, maybe he'll, because I had when I was thinking of a question, I was like, okay, I want to know about Batgirl. That's really what I want to know about. But because of the situation, I think with the cancellation, with Leslie Grace being cast, you know, I don't think anyone has ever asked him that. I don't know if you know of any interview where he's been asked about his Batgirl plans.
No, I know she was going to be in the movie, but that's the extent of it.
Because I think Joe Manganiello revealed that on the stream. He was the one who officially, there was speculation, I think, for years. And I think during 2021, he had officially like dropped that because he was trying at that time to get Deathstroke on HBO Max series made. So I just wanted to know. I was like, look, Ben's here with Zach, with, you know, Darkseid, with Ray Fisher, with Chris Terrio. I would imagine that Chris Terrio has seen the Batman script. So I was like, maybe they'll say something. So when you look at Ben's answer, when I threw in the Batgirl part at the end, I think that his reaction was more so about that because he didn't say one word about Batgirl. And he held on to those details really close to the chest. So some people think, oh, he just didn't like that question, so he's just not going to answer it. He gave me like a Bruce Wayne smile that I'm like, I don't know. I think Ben is just saving. He's holding out for a reason. Because why else not tell us if he was ready to move on and he's over it, he doesn't want to be Batman anymore? Why don't just tell us what we're going to use? What villains we're going to use? What are we going to do for Batgirl? He said, that's all they have for you at this time. He gave me a very vague answer and said not one word about Batgirl. So hashtag sells SnyderVerse to Netflix.
So speaking of Ben Affleck, again, just perfect transition. So you saw the Flash movie, and I want to go over kind of like the different aspects of the Flash movie. So we'll start with the shortest one because I know he's not in it that much. Ben Affleck. How was Ben Affleck in this Flash movie?
Ben Affleck is the Batman. Definitely, 100%. So going in, okay, so let me just preface to say I understand why in this fandom we feel the way we feel, right? Having listened to Mikey Sutton, Skywalker the Jedi, having read the headlines, we know this movie was it was intended and developed without Zach's input, right? To erase the SnyderVerse, pivot to flashpoint the SnyderVerse out of existence, right? So I've had going in very mixed feelings about this movie. But like I said previously, as someone who was 1 day away from turning 1 year old when Michael Keaton was Batman, WB really pulled a fast one on me by putting Michael Keaton in Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Flashpoint Batman role, right? I'm a huge Walking Dead fan. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I loved his comedian in Watchmen, you know? And I was like, when I saw the few trailers, like the first DC Fandome trailer, there were shots of Ezra. And I was like, ooh, like, that's not what Zach would do, you know? And I was a little cautious. I was like, why is Ben being a part of this movie that's going to erase the universe that he's a part of, right? He's loyal to Zach. So why would he do this? Having seen the movie, I didn't really like the new suit, how it looked at all in the trailers. And people have issues with like the CGI and whatnot. I loved it. I loved this new suit. I loved him. He comes in like the badass that he is, very quickly. And I will say, overall, there is a tone that is, in my opinion, more so reminiscent of Justice League, specifically the Zack Snyder's Justice League. And when I say that, I hope people are not thinking that this is going to be like, you got to remember, Batman has a team formed now at this point, right? He has allies. So he knows that he can call people like the Flash, right? When he's in a situation.
Yeah, or call
So-
Alfred to get Alfred to call Flash, which I only know from the trailer.
Right. So we're only going to, are we going to talk about just stuff in the trailer? Or are we going to, because you said minor spoilers, right? I don't want to say anything. No.
Minor spoilers are okay. Put it like this: anything with Ben Affleck, since that's in the first act, there's probably not much that's major spoilery.
I want people to experience this authentically, so I'm going to try to do non-spoilers as much as possible, unless you ask me about something specifically. But yeah, his tone is very much the Justice League tone, and specifically the Justice League animated series. I would say it's that Batman. He knows he has allies, so he can be a little bit more, cocky, I would say, and just kind of like, he's not like doing MCU type jokes, but when he's Batman, he is badass. And his scene, trust me, people in my theater blown away. And that new Bat cycle, it is worthy of the Batman that we saw in Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and the Snyder Cut. 100%. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. And I've said this on Sills, I believe maybe it was Skywalker's stream, but we going in, Ben has been promoting this movie as he finally nailed the character of Batman, right? Almost to the point where he's like, now I want to do it. I want to do it more because I understand this character more. And it makes sense after seeing the movie and him in various scenes. It really made sense to me, because going in, I was like, why do you think you got the character now when you were so perfect in Batman v Superman, so perfect in Suicide Squad, and so perfect in Snyder Cut? But now he has, he's a redeemed Batman, so to speak. He's done what he needed to do. He's gone through his crucible. He fell. He was the fallen knight in Batman v Superman. What falls is fallen, right? But at the end of the Snyder Cut, when Superman extends his arm, pulls him out from that dark abyss, he's in the light and redeemed, so to speak. So 100% loved it. Loved it. I will say, okay, initially I said this on one of Sill's streams, Andy does shoot Ben from a few angles that it's very quick, but there's a few shots where it's very unflattering because he films from like below. And the first time I saw it, I only had 2 complaints about the Flash. I just said that it was shot not like Zach. Like there were like shots that you would never see Zach shoot, and then also that the CGI was unfinished. So I hoped that didn't translate to the final scene, because there would be people, I think, that would be easily making memes out of certain scenes, because the CGI was not good and was not finished. So those were my 2 complaints going into it. But after watching it a second time, the one shot that's really egregious of Ben Affleck, you like see up his nose and it's like, oh. But after watching it again and seeing what happens in the scene, it kind of makes sense why he looks goofy. That's all I'll say. He does look a little goofy in one shot, really quick, but because of what's happening, it's a levity moment. He just does something really, really badass, and then something kind of like meta happens, and you're like, oh, okay. So everything about
I have an idea. He mentioned the lasso of truth scene, and I'm just curious, did that relate to? Is that goofy moment?
Maybe. Let's see.
Okay.
Maybe. but yeah. So yeah, I loved Ben was amazing, and I can see why he's reinvigorating to want to play Batman again. So hashtag make the Batfleck movie.
Yeah, it's a low budget project. Just saying, Netflix. So
I mean, there's a writer's strike going on, right? And there's a fully finished script, which is the best Batman script ever written, right? Apparently, according to insiders.
Yeah.
Just saying. There's a whole air cut out there as well. Pretty much done. Of the
they should just buy that one already, Netflix. It's money on the table, Warner Brothers. So
they don't have anything on 2024 slate, right?
Right. So they could.
anything worth watching anyway.
Yeah. I don't think like they'll have anything DC period.
They're gonna need to put out something, I would say. So
Yeah. So now let's move on to Sasha Calle. How was she in the movie?
honestly, this was one of my biggest worries, 100%. Because I, like most people, I saw the set pictures of her. I think it was that first scene where she's levitating down out of the courtroom scene. I don't know if you saw those pictures.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that suit was not flattering, right?
Yeah,
At all.
No, not at all.
They either, like, I don't know what they did, but going into the movie, I was like, okay, one, I'm a huge Supergirl fan. So I have a thing for, like, even with Zach's movies, like I had to get over Ezra not being blonde, Barry Allen. I'm like, and Jason Momoa kind of not being blonde. And I was like, kind of bothers me, you know, like little things like that. But seeing that it was going to be a dark-haired Supergirl, I'm half Latino, so I was like, oh, okay, she's Latina. So that's amazing.
Technically speaking, Kryptonians can't be Latino. You can have a Latino actress play a character of that same skin color, but there is no Latin America on Krypton.
Yes.
Being a bit of a smartass, I know.
No, you're right. And so that was my own, you know, once again, projecting, like, what should Supergirl be? Because, and I think a lot of it too is my nieces and little sisters, they love Supergirl, but they know Supergirl as, you know, Kara Zor-El, the blonde with the skirt, you know, and my niece today, she told me that she's just started watching the CW Supergirl show because she knows the Flash is coming out. And she's like, yeah, I'm excited to see Supergirl. And I was like, I explained to her, I was like, oh, you know that it's, you know, Supergirl, but she just has black hair. And she's like, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, I'm excited. So I was like, okay, cool. So seeing her, y'all, what she said about Cavill, I don't know. You know, this is secondhand information. Sasha Calle, I don't know how to pronounce it, Calle or Calle. She said that Henry Cavill, she approves, right?
Or he approves.
He approves, yeah. That Superman gave Supergirl the stamp of approval. I was sold, y'all. She's badass. Her first scene when she comes out, she sold me very, very quickly. And her suit, every single time, flawless. Amazing. I cannot wait to hear the reactions because I think, honestly, Supergirl, you know, we feel, because we saw James Gunn's slate, right? Or I guess if you want to call that a slate. So Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is on there. And Sasha has even talked about that comic book and that interpretation, and she's prepared herself for that. So I think just because she has given such an amazing performance in The Flash, it's really going to put James Gunn in an interesting position, because I assume he has no intention to have her. He would just recast a blonde.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Probably his wife, right? As a Supergirl, right? More than likely.
Well, probably. I would say it wouldn't make sense because of Hardcore, since he's keeping that canon. But it's James Gunn, so he wouldn't care.
It's the hardcore cinematic universe, right? That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
In the Sean Gunn cinematic universe. In the Economos cinematic universe, whatever his name is. Anyways, let me get that out of the way. But she's great, and I think that she's gonna make fans who are maybe on the fence 100% sold on her. And she is 100%. I'll tell y'all, she is Kara Zor-El. She's dark-haired, but she is worthy of standing next to Henry Cavill Superman. I loved her 100%.
I was really hoping, like, when we were getting that Man of Steel 2, when we were supposed to get like the Man of Steel 2 with Henry Cavill, I was really hoping for Sasha Calle Supergirl to be in that. I think she was supposed to be in that.
Yeah.
Before Gunny Poo had his own plans.
Jimmy Pistol, yeah. He I've seen like some of the art, like the fan art of them standing side by side, and I hope that happens somehow, some way, whether it, Netflix or another third party or whatever. Sasha is worthy, I think, to stand next to Henry Cavill Superman.
And she does kind of look like Henry Cavill. Like she looks like they could be related.
Seeing her, yeah, like even like her, like, because I was kind of a little worried, like seeing her speak. Like she's I don't know if you've seen her interview. She's so cool. Like she's just really, really, she's like super gorgeous, like super attractive, but she's so charismatic in interviews. Because of what Ezra's going through right now, he's not really in the spotlight promoting the movie,
Right.
But I think it's such a great idea to have her as the forefront. I haven't seen Michael Keaton do much yet. I think he probably will.
He did a Father's Day kind of Instagram video. Its most recent post. I think that was his only promotion I've seen him really do.
I'm sure they're gonna go all in like right before, and maybe we'll see Ezra possibly, but
he's gonna actually be on set or like in the red carpet premiere. I think they just revealed that today. Like they'll kind of keep it low profile for obvious reasons, but we'll get more to the Ezra topic later on. But
yeah, good. But yeah, Sasha, she's a star, y'all. I think this is gonna be if she doesn't get cast in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, James Gunn movie, someone's gonna nab her, I think, because of this performance and her fight scenes.
I kind of hope she's not in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, but that's not anything against Sasha Calle. That's more against James Gunn.
Right.
It's more.
Then he would do.
I really don't want a good actress like Sasha Calle in James Gunn's universe.
Yeah, and I mean, he probably wouldn't be able to use, like, if he uses the Man of Steel shield. Like, I don't even think he technically can. I don't know if there's something with contracts, but if he tries to use like that shield for his Superman and his Supergirl, I don't know how that's going to go.
I don't know how that works. It gets confusing after a while because I think they might have even had to slightly change Supergirl's logo because of the man. Like because that, I can't 100% sure. Don't quote me.
You're right, because I remember seeing it like the swoop at the end of the S. It's not how Cavill's is. It goes kind of up a little bit. So there is, it's not 100% his.
I mean, also could just be what looks good on a woman and what looks good on a man, just because men have flat chests, so they might have to slightly adjust it. So I don't know if that makes a difference at all either.
Right, very true. But her suit is flawless, y'all. You're gonna love it, and her fight scenes and her performances, great.
Good. I'm really glad. Yes. And she does. And speaking of Sasha Calle's fights, one fight I saw in the trailer, she was fighting Zod. I know, I guess he's not in it much, but how was seeing Michael Shannon as Zod again?
Seeing the Man of Steel scene play out from Barry Allen's perspective is 100% scary and also exciting. Like, just because, like I told you, like I love villains, and I loved Michael Shannon's performance so much. He's flawless. He does wear his Kryptonian armor a lot, because I think they used the CGI effect, and they used, how he has that covering on his helmet, right? You do see him without it, but most of his performance has that on, because of the chain of events and what happens, where Barry goes back in time to. It makes sense because he was wearing the armor at that time, right? So most of his performance is covered in that little like effect. And I think that was because they didn't, want to spend a lot of money to DH him. And they do the same with Feora as well. But he's flawless. He's great. He's the General Zod. I will find him. He's so good. He's seeing him back. I will say, okay, you said, I'm going to just throw this in here. You said that you watched all of the Man of Steel. commentaries, and I'm sorry, all the full circle commentaries specifically. So I'm finishing the Man of Steel one. Zach, people say that Zach's not rocking with this movie. I will say that Zach actually dropped very important Kryptonian knowledge during the Man of Steel Q&A that is a very important plot point that happens in The Flash. So I say
Josh,
that.
don't say that. You're gonna make people upset.
Zack Snyder, in my opinion, he's kind of helping the Flash movie, because from what I understand, there were conversations between Zack and Andy about respecting his universe and how his world works, how his Kryptonians are. And something happens. And I think initially, so I saw this 2 times, right? Something happens with Kryptonians that somebody was like, that's not how that's not how the Force works, basically. But if you paid attention to Man of Steel, if you paid attention to Batman v Superman, if you paid attention to Snyder Cut, it actually does. And it falls in line to something that respects Zack's universe. So if you haven't watched specifically the Man of Steel watch party Q&A, when I think it's near the beginning section, the first guest who's talking with Zack, pay attention to that conversation when he talks about Kryptonians and how their weapons work, how they're vulnerable. And yeah, because that's very important for the movie that's going to come out in a few weeks.
Oh, so it sounds like he has some little Andy Muschietti pays attention to the little details that people are concerned about. So
I would say so. I think, yeah.
And more to that, I guess, a little bit later. But for now, let's get nuts.
Yep. This man was my second. I talked about Sasha Calle being my first worry. Actually, I felt like I told you when I heard that Michael Keaton was our Flashpoint Batman, I was like, I love Michael Keaton. Love him. He's my first cinematic Batman. But you're going to give me Ben Affleck's too old, right? At like, I think he was like 48 at the time when they stopped, or maybe he was 47 or something. But you're going to give me like a 71-year-old Batman in the DCU. He's going to flashpoint into our universe and erase Ben Affleck, but you're going to give me Michael Keaton. So I get everyone not wanting to support this movie. It should have been Jeffrey Dean Morgan. It should have been Lauren Cohen. You know, they should have been Batman and Joker, the Waynes, you know, Thomas Wayne, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Martha Wayne, Laura Cohen, Joker. I want that movie. I do. I still want that movie. And it didn't make sense to me to have a 71-year-old Batman in this universe. It didn't really make sense for me I'm a Batgirl fan. Why is Batman 71 years old and James Gordon is younger than him? What are we doing here? Like, it didn't make sense at all. So I was kind of like against the Flash movie. And as much as a Batgirl fan, I wasn't against the Batgirl movie, but I was like, this is not the movie I wanted. You know, just like I said, I projected, you know. I will say, after seeing The Flash, I want to see the Batgirl movie so bad. So bad, just to see the Michael Keaton performance. He nailed it, y'all. I did say, like I said, there were unflattering shots of Ben, right? Keaton is 100%. I will say, okay, seeing it a second time, I would say Keaton is shot really well, except there are a few close-ups where the costume and the neck, because they gave him more movement, but he does kind of have like scenes where you can tell the costume like bunches up and it doesn't really get it gives an unflattering look to it. But his entrance, I think Sky has mentioned this, his entrance when he first debuts is a trip. It's not what you're going to expect at all, but it's gonna be a talking point, I would say, for sure. And it kind of really does, in my opinion. This is a movie for the DC multiverse, y'all. Not only the DC universe, not only the SnyderVerse, but it's the multiverse. It's more than that, right? There's been many Batman, there's been many Superman, there's been Wonder Woman, there's been side characters, and having Michael Keaton in this movie, our first blockbuster theatrical Batman, it makes a lot of sense, especially when you get Michael Keaton explaining how time travel and the multiverse works. So much so, it's so concise, so quick how they get you in on, oh, this is how this works, that it blows the Avengers Endgame convoluted storytelling plot line that doesn't still make sense to this day, in my opinion. Michael Keaton gives it to you like that with a visual aid. Skywalker the Jedi has talked about that.
So basically with that, it's the same time travel rules as Endgame. They just explain it better than Endgame. Is that kind of an accurate statement?
Yes and no. I don't want to spoil it. Yes and no. But it is explained way better. I have talked about how there's a few inconsistencies between Aquaman, Snyder Cut, right? Maybe Wonder Woman 84 even. This movie contextualizes the DC universe for me. When I had gripes about, Aquaman's dad is supposed to be dead, or Mara's parents are supposed to be dead, but in Aquaman, this movie and the way Michael Keaton explains it, perhaps Michael Keaton might have time traveled or explored the multiverse before. He's been around a lot longer than Ben Affleck, right? He's had a career. He's 71 years old as Batman. So who's to say that this is an even more experienced Batman than Ben Affleck? And who's to say that he hasn't done his own fair share of traveling the DC universe? So I want to see the Batgirl movie. I think, like I said, it contextualized all my little gripes with the DC films, all the little inconsistencies. And that's what I hate about people, they're so against it. This shot of Superman wearing this blue and red suit means this, and it's not Snyder. And I'm like, you haven't even seen the movie. Who's to say when this movie takes place, right? We know it happens at some point after the Snyder Cut, right? But when? We don't know. Because a lot has happened.
These people, it doesn't. They insist that it's justice. We'll get more into that later, but
Superman has a color suit, but Batman has a new suit, Flash has a new suit. We don't know what happened, So maybe you should see the movie and you'll kind of understand a lot more. But Michael Keaton, man, he's flawless. He's flawless. It makes you believe a 71-year-old could still be Batman. And he always looks imposing. He's always like, I actually got the, I'm looking at him right now. I got the McFarlane toys. Oh, I forgot. I got one to put up and then one to keep in the package, but his suit is amazing. I know there's a glare. His gadgets, they're just, you get to see Keaton in a light that you didn't get to see in 89 Batman or in Batman Returns, because he's so much more functional. I talked about, his neck and the suit kind of looking unflattering, but it's because he's 71 years old, guys. He's got to be able to move, right? And you really get a full unleashed Keaton at 71 years old. And it's great. Nice. It's amazing. Bat-tastic. It's bat-tastic.
Nice. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm, really glad that, that Michael Keaton's Batman isn't just nostalgia. I mean, I'm sure it's some nostalgia bait, but it's a little bit more it's actually serves the story too.
It serves, yeah. And it makes, like I said, there's a reason why he's there. And he's the one that explains how everything works, because there might be adventures that we haven't seen yet with that man.
So, it's funny though. We keep talking about, Michael Keaton's Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman, Sasha Calle's Supergirl, Michael Shannon's Zod, Batman and Superman characters, but not Flash characters, which leads me to this next question. And no, the S is not a typo. I purposely pluraled Ezra Miller for a reason. And so I guess I have to ask, like, just Ezra Miller in this movie, is this even a Flash movie?
Here right now, Saturday, June 3rd, it is 10:14 p.m. Central Standard Time. I can confirm 100% that the Flash movie does have the Flash in it, and 100% is a Barry Allen, the fastest man alive Flash story. 100%. It's
Good.
great. Yeah, it is.
Because the way
it is
advertised, it's not. I mean, even before any of that controversy went down, they still felt like they advertised it more as Flash into the Batverse.
right. And they're really banking and going in on the nostalgia. They're trying to get that Spider-Man No Way Home money, right? We know how this works and Hollywood works. They see one successful formula and they're like, do that. Make that money. There's a lot that y'all haven't seen in the trailers. I know some people think that, oh, we've seen the whole movie in the trailers. There's a lot you haven't seen. So they might still reveal some stuff. And I will say, maybe we'll get into this later, but I am a little concerned about the amount of advanced screenings they are having because there's so many. There's been an abnormal amount of advanced screenings, free screenings. There's been 3 rounds, I think, and there's going to be 2 more before it even starts. But because of the advanced screenings, the word of mouth is getting out there, y'all. And people, I've said this on Skywalkers and Sil's streams, there's a negativity in both my screenings. There was a negativity surrounded around Ezra prior to watching it. You could hear people just chatting. I'm not even here for the star. I'm here for Michael Keaton. Or I'm not even here for Michael Keaton. I'm here for Ben Affleck. I even heard that, the people that were not into Ezra, they're like, I don't know. Because they don't know what the situation is, right? They don't look into the details. They don't look at they look at the headlines and they're like, oh, this guy beats up women. And it's like, are you sure? Did you look into this? Because I can tell you that this man is being just targeted in a hate campaign right now because he is, someone who considers themselves trans. And I will say that your Ezra Millers, being there intentionally, it plays into the movie even. There's 2 Ezras, so they are a them, they are a we, there's more than one. And there's a lot of Ezra Miller in this performance that I don't think a lot of people are expecting. That it makes sense after seeing the movie why people are being won over, because Ezra does give the performance that is really hyped to be on. I've said this in tweets and I stand by it. Believe the Flash hype. Ezra Miller knocks this one out of the park, I gotta say. And I know people have said, oh, they're not fans of his other work, like Fantastic Beasts, or even people didn't like him for some reason or another. They didn't like him in Justice League or whatever. He's a star. He is the star of the movie. I mean, if there's not all these shenanigans and all this nostalgia that happens and the badass Ben Affleck and the badass Supergirl and the badass Michael Keaton, wouldn't mean anything if you weren't invested here. And this, as it relates to Ben, as it relates to Sasha, as it relates to Keaton, it's all coming from Barry. He is the heart of the movie, just like Cyborg was from the Snyder Cut. I cried when I saw his performance. He knocks it out of the park. He's a star. He is the show stealer of the movie. Andy Muschietti, man. Sky has said this much to much controversy, but to be fair to Zach is using, Ezra Miller, Flash, Barry Allen that doesn't have a refined, suit yet, right? That is not really channeling the Speed Force as intended, like the comic books. It's Blue Lightning for a reason, right? But Andy nails it. The Speed Force scenes, a man freaking running, giving me chills, is not something I would ever thought I would experience. Both screenings for chills just from a man running, simply running. So Barry Allen, Flash, Ezra Miller is Barry Allen. Flash is the fastest man alive. and you are 100%. There's been a lot of speedsters, you know, and superheroes. There's been Quicksilver, you know, there's been multiple Quicksilvers. What's the other speedster? The one in The Boys, I forget what his name is, A-Train, you know, but there's a reason why Barry Allen is called the fastest man alive. And he proves it in this movie. Knocks it out of the park. The one thing I was really upset with was Billy Crudup playing Henry Allen, the Flash's father, right? Being recast. Yeah. And of course, you know, ultimately people are, that's not Billy Crudup, so that's not SnyderVerse, right? And even I was just kind of like, why? Turns out, I don't know if you watch Apple TV Plus, but he's on the morning show, right? And
yeah, that's why he wasn't in it.
I don't know if anybody's watched that, but he's fucking great in that show. So amazing. It blows it out of the park. Blows it away. But when season 2 of that show was being filmed, The Flash was being filmed. So he had to choose. Do I want to get an Emmy nominated series, you know, or do I want to be in this Flash movie where I have like a little bit of you know, barely any screen time really, because it's the Flash's movie. It's not my movie, right? I will say that the recast, I forget the actor's name from Office Space.
Ron Livingston.
Ron Livingston. He looks a lot like, they rough him up and kind of make his hair kind of like the Henry Allen we saw in the Snyder Cut. And I bought it. I was sold, and they have a great relationship. It's not, I will say, Billy Crudup's just goofiness is a little bit better in the Snyder Cut, but Ron Livingston, he's great. If you can't have Billy, it's amazing that we got Ron. So I loved that about him. And the performance from the mom, Barry's mom, no spoilers, but you've seen her in the trailer. But in the short time that we see her, she makes an impact, very much so. And she has an accent. She's a Latina actress. I forget, I don't know if she's Argentinian. I know Andy Muschietti is, but she hits you right here, just like Barry does. So you are going to be won over 100%, guys. I promise you. Even if you don't, like, I could see people having issues with the tone, because like I said, if you're going between like BVS to Wonder Woman, it's a little bit more, there's a lot of levity in that, right? If you're going from, you know, like Suicide Squad to the Suicide Squad, there's a drastic different tone. When you're going from Snyder Cut to Aquaman, there's a different tone, right? But it makes sense for as somebody who literally watched Zack Snyder's Justice League at full circle in IMAX, we were cracking up in that theater, a movie we've all seen multiple times, right? We've all seen it. And his scenes with Barry Allen, with Ezra Miller, he's the funny part of it, you know? And that translates, in my opinion, 100% authentically in the Flash movie. Yeah, same here. And it actually, like, her being Latina, as somebody who's half Latino, it really is going to speak, I think, to people of all backgrounds, though, as just a son and a mom relationship being like so important, you know, and a relationship with a son and a father too. Like, I don't know if anybody plans to see this with parents, but if you can, I'm taking my entire family. I'm taking my, I'm not taking my father, but I'm taking my mother, my aunts, and my nieces and nephews, and my grandfather, who are all, you know, very important people to me. See this with a parent if you can, because not only are you going to get the nostalgia of Michael Keaton, maybe your parents, you know, grew up with him, but you're also going to get a story about family and, you know, finding the right family, and kind of makes you, you know, when you leave the theater, you remember what's important in life. And whether you have a family, an actual biological family, or a born into family, or, you know, a chosen family that you weren't born into, this movie, it reminds you of, you know, people are important in your lives, right? Flash in the trailer says time has a pattern. There's people that are, you know, destined to basically interact with each other. And this movie hit me here because after going through COVID, like all of us had, this is a movie about finding the people in your life and keeping them close and cherishing them. And sometimes, you know, for circumstances, you can't be with that person in your life, but they're gonna, you know, you're gonna be okay if you remember them for who they are, what they stand for, and what made you the person you are. So 100% excited to talk to you, Bat Dan. You need to see this movie soon. When are you seeing it? I want to talk
June
spoilers.
15th, I took a half day off work for it. I would have seen it June 12th, but I have a band concert that day, so I can't.
Who are you seeing? Oh, you're playing, right? You said you were playing.
Yeah, I'm involved in 2 community bands.
Awesome, man. You don't live stream it or anything, do you?
No, I don't live stream, but if they're on YouTube, there's one that's on YouTube. I'll send you the link to one of my concerts. Actually,
Yeah,
I think it's on.
Please do. I'm a huge concert guy.
So they're like concert band concerts.
But still, yeah.
But yeah, really. So yeah, definitely I enjoy playing, and you know, unfortunately, there are some sacrifices, like not being able to see the Flash movie on the early showing on the 12th. But that's the thing when you have other commitments, like Billy Crudup. You know, you got commitments, and I'm just curious though. I guess since you kind of brought that up, I guess how, in your opinion, do you think they could have just written Henry Allen's role out of the movie?
No.
Okay.
Because this carries over from what we saw in Barry, when you're talking about, as someone who literally just watched the Snyder Cut earlier today, you pick up right where the Snyder Cut, when he puts the sickness. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, I mean, this is a powerful movie on a different level, I think. And I think that's why a lot of people are shocked about, oh, this is the greatest movie since The Dark Knight. We've all heard that, right? But it really does transcend the story and is very transcendent. It's not just a comic book movie, y'all. It's a human story at the end of the day. Barry Allen has the power of a god, but it's about, you know, is it important to just change things because you have the power of a god, or is it important, or other things more important, you know? So I don't know what I was saying. Sorry, I got caught off track. But Henry Allen, he should not. No, he needed to be in this movie. So I get why they recasted him, because you pick up right when Barry shows him that he's got a job at the crime lab at the end of Snyder Cut. You know, he's got his foot in the door. Make your own future, make your own past. You know, he needed to be in this. So I understand why they recast him, and it sucks that we can't have Billy Crudup, but Ron Livingston is a great replacement, in my opinion.
That's good, at least. I mean, I'm someone who, like, recasting is always hard for me, even if the actor ends up being better just for continuity reasons. But, you know, I mean, I'll be honest, when they were doing all these reshoots, I was kind of hoping that they could have at least gotten Billy Crudup to play him, like, in the reshoots, or at least, like, have him play, like, Henry Allen in, like, the main timeline, and just kind of, like, redo it so that, like, Ron Livingston is like the alternate Henry Allen of that universe, something like that. So he doesn't have to be completely kicked out of the movie, but at least keep that continuity intact. But
I will say, I should have prefaced this before this entire interview, but I will say there was at both my screenings, there was I'm sure you know this, Bat Dan, but for people that don't know, there are both my screenings that were the same. They were the same movie. Andy Muschietti and Barbara Muschietti, the director and the producer, they tell you this is not the finished movie. And there is stuff not done, like CGI. And in my opinion, I've talked to my friends about this. There are several scenes where there are placeholders, essentially, for surprises, I think, to be plugged in. And maybe even missing scenes, maybe missing post-credit scenes. So who's to say? I doubt Billy Crudup would be in there, but who's to say he might not be in the final cut? Because apparently what we saw was the CinemaCon cut that was from like January, apparently, or December. So we are watching a movie that's not the full movie that will be out on shown on June 12th and be everywhere on June 15th. So let me preface everything I'm telling y'all. It's what I saw, but it was not the finished movie. And I've even thought, I was like, what if they do like a swerve and they like are doing all these advanced screenings to, make people think the movie is this, and then at the last minute they change the movie completely. I thought about that, but they would not. I don't think they could get away with that just because of how good the test screening version is at all. And like I said, it really has the heart that you need in one of these, not only summer blockbusters, but just an emotional human story.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad that this is a Flash movie. And there is something you said that I really do want to address here. Please, guys, if you're going to comment on Ezra Miller, please do not just go off the headlines. That is a very dangerous and irresponsible thing to do, in my opinion. Like, if you actually look into the situation and from there you're still not on the fence or don't like Ezra, fine. But if you're just not doing your due diligence, that's not okay. I'll tell you this right now, Josh. I make a point. I do not publicly shame Amber Heard because I did not watch the trial. And this is not me siding with Amber Heard. I feel that because I did not watch the trial, it would be very irresponsible of me as a content creator, as someone with a platform, to defame her if I'm not going to do my due diligence.
That's very responsible of you, Bat Dan. So I appreciate that, because it's easy to chastise celebrities, right? I mean, they're people we don't know. We just watch them on a screen. They're not human, right? They're just, you're just that crappy DC actor that I don't like anyways. So I'm just going to start spewing negativity because I hate you and I hate Zack Snyder. And there's a lot of toxicity, guys, but I think Sky has been mentioning this. And I think, I don't know if I told you this, Dan. Yeah, I did. In a message. My personal opinion, I can't speak to everyone, but I've been, like I said, Twitter for 14 years now. And being a Zack Snyder fan, I've primarily only used Twitter for Zack Snyder movies, contents, and campaigns, right? I've gotten harassed. I've gotten bullied. I've gotten, dogpiled on. I've gotten DMs. I've gotten threats from people just for posting that I was a Zack Snyder fan, right? In the past. Ever since Full Circle, I was fully expecting, because I've been more active on there, I was fully expecting like negativity and stuff. There was really nothing until I started hashtagging the Flash and the Flash movie when I posted my first initial reaction after my screening on May 22nd, the same day that Skywalker the Jedi did. I posted it really late at night because I was with my friends at a screening. We had talked about it afterwards. I took my friend home because he needed a ride home, and we talked about the movie the entire way through. So I didn't really get home till really late and post my tweet until really late, and it uploaded really late. And there was nothing back then when I first initially posted it. And in the morning I saw my notifications, and I was like, the likes not only, but also the comments and the DMs that I got. And I was like, wow. And every time I tweet hashtag the Flash movie, that continues. Really look into this, y'all, and look at the big picture. I don't think that there's a lot of people on Twitter who are actually Zack Snyder fans who claim to be. I think there's a lot of people working for the other side, trying to give our fandom. What's up, Guitar? We have been labeled as toxic, right?
Yeah.
So if people are being threatened, as I've mentioned this before, about art existing and avenues to get that art made at a different platform, another company, another streaming company, right? That would make these antis really do some desperate stuff, right? I will say that there are two individuals that have been in this fandom. I cannot speak to whether they are Zack Snyder fans or DC fans, as they maybe claim to be, but they created a hashtag for a certain CEO, right? That went nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
In retaliation to the SnyderVerse, community, right? Those people had blocked me both. Unbeknownst, like I didn't interact with them. I knew who they were, and I was kind of like disgusted that they were part of this movement. But you know, every YouTuber, like you might have somebody Batdan on your channel that I don't really like, but that's your channel. I'm not gonna, you know, judge you. I'm not gonna not talk to you or interact with you. That's just you have a relationship with this person and I don't, you know. So, but those people had blocked me after my dog pile tweet happened. Those people had unblocked me and requoted my tweet. Didn't comment, didn't DM me or anything, but specifically quote tweeted to say, look at the comments. This guy just likes this movie. Oh, this is disgusting. And I just thought it was really interesting behavior. Right?
Yeah.
Like, why you had me blocked, but then you see that I'm being harassed. Are you? Do you have burners? Because I've seen, you know, in this community, the burner accounts getting the chats and harass people in this community. And I'm starting to put together the dots. And I'm starting to really just like, there are, I think, antis out there doing some really desperate things, y'all. And because I talked about how there's been a lot of advanced screenings, I think it is really, really, if you want to see more of Zach's universe and you want to see more of these characters, if you want to see more Ezra Miller, if you want to see more Sasha Calle, even if you want to see more Michael Keaton, like we've heard from Mikey Sutton, right? You need to go support this movie opening weekend, and you need to spread the word, because I'm telling you, it's worth it. I know even the most, we've all seen the headlines. We all know what was supposed to happen. But what's the bottom line? What's the big goal? What's the big picture? Don't be short-sighted. Do you like Zach? Because apparently what I heard is Zack Snyder recently saw the film. Did you hear that, Dan?
Yep. And we'll actually get into that in like two topics away. But yeah, I definitely did hear that before. But don't lose that momentum though, because we're going to pick up right back up on that soon. But just anything else you want to wrap up with the Ezra Miller topic? The Flash, is this being a Flash movie?
I specifically, if anybody is on the fence about really looking into what Ezra's situation is, what has been going on, you know, it's easy for the media to put a juicy headline out there. And everyone, you know, I said this on a stream, but I was sitting next to a disabled gentleman who was with his college-age son. And he was at my second screening, just talking loudly, boastful about, oh, well, I don't know why I'm here, because the star of this movie beats up women, and I don't know if I can support that. And I was like, I got really, really, as someone who works in mental health, you know, just fired up. And I did it in a respectful manner, but I was like, oh, excuse me, sir. I actually work in mental health. And are you sure you know what you're talking about? Did you read a headline, or do you know what Ezra's going through right now? Did you really look into what's going on with him, right? And so I basically laid it out that, you know, maybe you shouldn't just read a headline, sir. Maybe just use your critical thinking skills. One of the reasons why I love being part of Sil Nation and this fandom is that Sil, I respect the hell out of him because he's an adult. And he's not going to, you know, I even if people watch this stream that you have me on, Batdan, and they don't believe me, they're like, oh, this guy is paid off. Somebody paid him to say all these great things. Even if you don't believe me, that's in my opinion, a good thing. I'm kind of glad that the fandom is skeptical about the Flash, right? Because we've been put through the ringer. We have as DC fans, I would say. We get promised we're going to get this, and then nothing happens. Never goes anywhere. So it's great to be skeptical, but use critical thinking skills, right? Look into what the headlines are really saying. Look into the body cam footage. Look into the attacks that have been happening to Ezra for years and the perpetrators of those attacks and where those negative headlines are coming from. So if anybody wants to DM me, my handle, Batdan has it. There's Twitter threads out there that explain everything to you and why the situation is not black and white. I don't think Ezra is 100% innocent. I will say that one. You know, the man had a lot of stuff going on. I'm very bad about the pronouns, but they had a lot of things going on that a lot of people saw a headline and didn't really, you know, do their due diligence to find out. But there's a lot more to the story and circumstances that you don't know. the charges that you think you know maybe aren't the charges that he was actually charged with. And from what I understand, they are 100% better. They will not be recast at all, according to Andy Muschietti, because they are born to play Barry Allen, Ezra Miller. And I 100% agree with that. And I think Zack Snyder agrees with that, right? So if you want to see more from Zack's universe, you might need to go support the Flash movie. That's all I'm saying.
Well said. Well said. And, you know, and I actually, you know, if you're watching this on the playlist, my very first video on this, I have a Flash movie hype playlist I just created. And my very first videos from August, where I actually did my whole thoughts on the whole Ezra Miller topic. And my videos, probably one of the very few pro Ezra Miller videos that came out. But it's, you know, I basically emphasize innocent until proven guilty, the importance of mental health. And my main issue is that the SnyderVerse fandom is supposed to be about mental health. That is one of the biggest attributes of our fandom, and not believing false headlines. So to see so many of these SnyderVerse fans turn on Ezra Miller like that, it's honestly kind of disgusting, honestly. I mean, here's the thing. Today it's Ezra Miller. Tomorrow it's you or me. And there's another... And so, I couldn't say this at the time I did this recording of my Ezra Miller video because the interview was taken down, but it's back up now, so I'll publicly say it. Another YouTuber, Savage the Bad, actually interviewed Anna Rose. I don't know if you know who that is.
I've heard the name, but I don't think
she's the woman that the media claimed that Ezra kidnapped along with her 3 kids.
Okay, yeah.
But basically, she debunks it, and then she mentions how when Ezra tried to get her out of her ex's house, he pulled a knife out. And then what happened, you know what Ezra did? Ezra then threw a chair at him, and it bounced off him and hit one of his sister wives, or he was in a poly relationship.
Right.
But so do you notice notice that key thing I said at the end there though?
Yep.
The chair. How come that doesn't get reported? Why does that not mean? Because here's the thing. When I saw that, I'm like, that completely changes the whole narrative of that chair throwing situation. Because I'm like, I thought the best explanation would be mental health. But no, there's a better one than that even. That is, so the point is, I'm kind of saying is, be careful with those headlines. Yes, technically Ezra did throw a chair at someone, but believe it or not, there was a legitimate reason for that. So,
and I will say, just as we're closing out this topic with Ezra, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Ezra is a little bit of an eccentric personality, right? He wears things that are unconventional, subverts expectations, and challenges you, just like Zack Snyder would, in my opinion. He's doing that. He's living vicariously through Zack Snyder, and I saw him. So Ezra Miller has a band. I don't know if it's still in effect, but it's called Sons of an Illustrious Father. Illustrious Father, yeah. And I saw him here in my hometown back in 2018. And you can listen to their music, but it is very provocative, and it is very out there, and it is edgy, and it challenges the social norms of society, right? And Ezra dresses very eccentrically and out there and flamboyant. So take that into consideration when you're talking about these headlines. He is living a life authentically and 100% him. And there's a lot of people that don't like that he's living that life. So use your critical thinking skills. Look at the big picture. It is Pride Month this month. We have no time for hatred and bigotry and negativity, all right? So get the fuck off your high horse. Do your due diligence and inform yourself before you cast stones in a glass house. That's all I got to say about that.
And honestly, I don't think there's anything I'm going to say to top that at this point. So I'm abruptly ending the topic, but only because what you said, I just don't think will be topped. So well said. And
good.
But, I guess so. You were positive about this Flash movie, but were there any concerns or issues you had? I guess you mentioned some CGI issues and Ben Affleck's nose.
Yes. What my biggest concerns are, and I could tell you specifically what I'm already 100%. I know people are going to come to say, oh, it's not SnyderVerse for this reason. It's not SnyderVerse for this reason. It's not SnyderVerse. And if you say that and you claim that, it's because you didn't pay attention to the freaking movie. Okay. It literally makes sense, but you have to use critical thinking skills. Just like Zach does, pay attention. Not everything is literally told to you. It's shown to you. Okay. The concerns I do have was the CGI. You know about the baby shower scene, right? You've seen the, okay. So the baby shower scene is, for the most part, it's like you would going in, you're going to be like, oh, another speedster scene. It's amazing. It's freaking amazing, y'all. But there are CGI babies. And at one point, there's like one in particular that is like, oh my God, that's not a baby. Like you could just, it's like a PS2, like, little like gremlin, essentially. You're like, oh, you're like, that's not a baby. So I am sure if this is indeed like 5 months old, that this is going to be improved and fixed. The tone is one thing I know people are going to probably be like, this isn't SnyderVerse. But look, Barry Allen, the good Austin can speak to this. Barry, he knows his stuff. You probably know your stuff back then. Barry Allen is a comedic character. He is known for having, in the Snyder Cut, he's the joke, guy. Okay. So there are jokes and there are quips, but he is authentically 100%, in my opinion, the Ezra Miller Flash we saw in the Snyder Cut. There is nothing in the movie that contradicts who or what we saw in the Snyder Cut. Okay. There's several things. You can see him in the trailer. Iris West was not in Justice League, right? At all. Pajarnov is, mentioned exclusively in the Snyder Cut, I think. So,
and I can just answer this question real quick. No, it was not, because that image was leaked in 2021, way before Gunn came as head. So
I think it was shown actually at DC Fandome. I don't know if you watched that during COVID.
No, it wasn't. It was going to be shown at DC Fandome.
Well, there was a leak, right?
Yeah, there was a leak, and they didn't show that anymore. So it was recorded and filmed to be in DC Fandome, but it didn't end up getting shown because of the leak. People already saw it.
One note I will say, I have my handle, my Twitter handle, is also my Instagram handle. I posted on my Twitter a little clip, but there is a Facebook video that I found which had the entire Flash movie panel from DC Fandome, and the promises that Andy Muschietti, Ezra Miller, Barbara Muschietti, and Christina Hodson. I know people have interesting feelings on this person because they wrote, Birds of Prey. They wrote the Batman. I think they're friends with Robert Pattinson's Batman. Batgirl, yes, Batgirl. But all of I would recommend I posted the entire panel on my, not the entire panel, but the highlight of the panel, and all the promises made at the DC Fandome 2020 panel, they deliver 100%. Now, don't think because at that time, right, people were like, oh, this is going to erase the SnyderVerse. Remember what happened at DC Fandome, right? Zack Snyder premiered the first trailer of the Snyder Cut, okay? At that time, Snyder Cut was coming out for a reason, and The Flash piggybacked off that promotion for a reason. So if you want to go watch that, there's a clip on my Instagram. I can send it to y'all, or I can send it to you back then. But they deliver on all the promises made at that DC Fandome 2020 panel. And Zack Snyder was a part of that.
Why don't you send it to me, and I'll put it in the description after. Like, if you're watching this on Replay Crew, that is, it'll be in the description.
Yeah,
now it's on the full.
I guess somebody on a Facebook, I have it saved in my Facebook post, so I can send you the full thing, or I can send you just a little Instagram clip, which I think is like 8 minutes long. But yeah, I'll send that to you after we finish here. But
okay, sounds good. Anything so
my
wrap up?
Yeah, just my concerns. I think they'll improve. There's a few shots that, like I said, Michael Keaton's cowl doesn't look most flattering. Ben Affleck doesn't look the most flattering. But as far as story, like it moves, y'all. It's straight from the get-go. It starts in a flash and it doesn't let up. And very much, Batdan, I'm so proud that you're going to finally watch Back to the Future. You need to watch Back to the Future. If you have not seen Back to the Future, please do yourself a favor, not only for film fan, pop culture history, but for this movie. You're not going to get the jokes if you don't see Back to the Future. So definitely it is the Back to the Future of this generation. I don't know if you know what the significance is of that movie, but in my opinion, the Flash movie is the new Back to the Future of this generation.
I will make sure to watch. I mean, even people of my generation give me a hard time for not having seen that movie. So I definitely will make sure to watch it and do a review on it before the Flash movie comes out. But I guess before we move on to the SnyderVerse or not, the boycott or no topic, any final things you want to wrap up with concerns, issues?
No, just prepare yourself for and I mentioned this, but the advanced screenings, there's been too many because I have friends like in Vegas and New York and different areas, and they're just doing an abnormal amount of advanced screenings. So my concern right now, I was texting a friend earlier today, is like, because she's fully invested in Michael Keaton and wants to. I told her about Mikey Sutton saying, there might be more Keaton if this is successful. And she's like, why are they doing so many of these screenings? There's literally like 5 or 6, right? And I'm like, I don't know. I usually, as far as what I go to, I only like know of maybe 2 max, when I go to advanced screenings, 2 opportunities. And it's very rare that there's 2. There's usually only 1. So there's like 6. And they did at both my screenings, there was always these initiatives that were like, is there anybody from like a youth center or like a boys and girls club? So they're really trying to like prioritize young kids to see this movie, which is interesting because it's not really, I wouldn't say it's young kids can enjoy it for sure, but it's not really like, there's a lot of like multiverse shenanigans. And if you have Michael Keaton in there, a lot of young kids are not going to really be like, they don't really need to see Michael Keaton's Batman. But it's, the reason for Michael Keaton's Batman to be there is for like people who have grown up with him, right? So like my nieces and nephews who I'm taking to see the Flash, they have never seen Michael Keaton. They just know, he was an old Batman. And they're going to be, I told them, I was like, you'll be able to follow along. Just maybe watch a YouTube clip of Michael Keaton movies, But if you are 100% into seeing more of the SnyderVerse, you definitely need to buck up and go see the Flash movie in theaters opening weekend, June 15th. If you can't see it on the advanced screenings on June 12th, see it opening weekend, Father's Day weekend, because it's worth it, y'all. I'm just telling you, it's such a good movie. And it's not just a comic book, boom, pow, bang, superficial movie like some other franchise. It's got the heart that deserves a sequel because I will say this, from what I saw, which was not the final cut, right? There's a lot more story to tell. This movie doesn't fully get wrapped up. I will say that. There's a lot more potential and a lot more story to be told with this universe, these characters, and the SnyderVerse in general. So if you want more SnyderVerse, you might want to support the Flash movie.
But doesn't this support James Gunn's reboots?
Look, I feared that too. Like I thought, okay, maybe they're just promoting this word of mouth, and then well, I thought I'm a conspiracy theory guy, so I'm like, okay, what if they're just using this as like a way to make they're doing all these advanced screenings to make the film bomb, and then that's the reason for them not to use Ezra or to do SnyderVerse, right? James Gunn gets carte blanche. And then I was like, well, maybe they're just using the SnyderVerse to milk us of our money to fund Jimmy Pistol's Superman reboot, Superman Legacy, right? I'll be honest, after seeing it twice, even if that is the case, even if it is, we're doing a bait and switch. It's not Ezra's fault. It's not Michael Keaton's fault. It's not Sasha Calle's fault. It's not Andy Muschietti's fault. It's not Barbara Muschietti's fault. It's not Ron Livingston's fault. It's not Ben Affleck's fault. it's a good movie. It just is. Even if you're not a SnyderVerse fan, it's such a good movie. And so you owe it to yourself to see a movie with heart in this time that we're living in this summer season where there's a lot of things, you could be doing, but it's going to be hot, and I'm from Texas, so I'm trying to cool off sometime. So I'm going to go to the theater, get some snacks, and enjoy the heck out of the Flash movie because it should be seen on the big screen. It is cinematic AF.
So this is definitely with this whole movement being big, sell ZSJL to Netflix, sell SnyderVerse to Netflix. This would be, in your opinion, would supporting this movie help or hurt the cause for sell ZSJL to Netflix, sell SnyderVerse to Netflix?
As someone who is fans of everyone in this SnyderVerse fan community, I think I'm a big picture guy. This character, this movie was made, like I said, intended and developed to be made initially setting up Zack Snyder's Justice League 2, right? It was supposed to be Rick Famuyiwa with Captain Cold as the villain, from what I understand. We don't know who the actor was. And it was going to deal with, I think Cyborg was going to be in it, and it was going to deal with criminal justice, and social politics issues and a lot of different, important things. And WB was like, oh, we don't want that. We just want, something else. And so it changed directors, and then it changed writers, and then it changed directors, and then changed writers. So for me, honestly, just seeing, because I was worried that this was going to be a Justice League situation all over again with all the development, right? Because 4 different versions, from what I understand, were shot of The Flash.
Yeah.
The fact that it is such a great, cohesive movie is shocking to me, honestly. Even if there are all the reshoots, I could not tell. Yeah, I mean, I could not tell, honestly. I'm being 100% honest. I could not tell what was a reshot and what wasn't. I really couldn't. Because it really feels what I saw. I think people in chats, when I talked about my experiences, they were like, oh, was this a reshoot? Do you feel like this? And I'm like, honestly, no. It feels like it was intended to always be this movie. And it's pretty shocking. It sucks that Cyborg, Ray Fisher, he didn't want to have anything to do with it. But I will say, because Skywalker the Jedi, he actually has come to find out. At first, he said that he didn't think that he saw the same version I did. But the movie is crazy and wild, and there is a lot to look at on the screen. I definitely recommend to see it in IMAX if you can, because there's a lot. Yeah, that's a great investment with your time, Batman, because this is going to be something you need to watch multiple times to see everything. I saw brand new stuff that I didn't see the first time around. My first screening, I thought I saw Cyborg from behind. Okay. I did not see a face, but I think I saw Cyborg from behind. And my second screening, unfortunately, I was looking for the face of one Henry Cavill, because I was being told that didn't happen in my screening. And I was like, I know what I saw. And so I need to watch it again and see the final cut, because maybe we might get surprised, So as far as boycotting or not, as far as how anyone wants to spend their money, hard-earned money, that's not for me to say. I'm just a fan. I literally have been privileged to talk to Bat Dan, almost going on 3 hours now, as just a passionate fan. I have no affiliation with any media company. I have no agenda other than seeing more from Zack Snyder's universe. That's 100%. I'm not an influencer. I guess I've been trying to influence people to go see The Flash here recently, just because I believe in it, and it's a good time at the movies. Hell, I just saw SnyderVerse. That's a great time at the movie.
Oh yeah, same here.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I thought
really it's good. I will say there's some people telling me, DMing me, and it's like, oh, it's the best superhero movie of all time. And I was like, The Flash is better, and it's not even finished. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
It's better than Across the Spider-Verse.
I think so.
In your opinion?
I think so. In my opinion.
Oh, damn.
So, and I loved Across the Spider-Verse. I had some, for one reason or another, I don't, that's not the topic, but I don't think it was as good as the first one, but I will say that I'm confident The Flash is a better movie than Across the Spider-Verse. But if you want to boycott, that's your decision. But if you're a Zack Snyder fan and you want to see more of the SnyderVerse, I don't think boycotting is going to do you any good at all. It's literally going to do the opposite. So if you're being brainwashed by all these people claiming to be Zack Snyder fans, saying that, you know, your moral high ground is you need to boycott because I stand with Ray Fisher. Guess where Ray Fisher was? Sitting right behind me at a WB sponsored event, WBD sponsored event with Chris Terrio, Ray Fisher, Zack Snyder, and Ben Affleck together, reunited. So you really want to stand on that moral high ground to boycott a movie when Cyborg himself is standing next to these actors at a WB event? If you stand with Ray Fisher, let me tell you, he's standing at a WBD event in IMAX. That's all I'm going to say.
That's a really good point. I mean, exactly. It's like, it just, I mean, I think Silicon brings up this great point too. It's like, then I want to know what gas stations you go to. I want to know what shoe brands you buy. I want to know where you're eating. If you're gonna, I mean, here's another point too. Did you know that Joss Whedon was a writer for Toy Story?
And I'm a huge Toy Story fan. I did not learn that until literally this year, Batdan. So you destroyed my childhood by bringing that up again. Thank you very much.
But are you gonna boycott Toy Story as a result?
I'm going to Toy Story 5 opening day.
and kind of like one more thing I'll kind of say too is that I see this one account that's been very supportive of Ezra Miller through everything in the beginning. Like from the very beginning, they're like, I hope Ezra gets better with mental health. They've been debunking these allegations. And yet I see them put on this boycott train for Ray Fisher. I'm going to say this. If this movie fails to do a boycott, I can guarantee you WBD, the media, Netflix, they will not associate that boycott with the 10 minutes of screen time Ray Fisher likely would have had in this version of the film. Yep. They're not. It's going to be associated with Ezra Miller. They're not going to get another job likely. Like, boycotting this film will hurt Ezra Miller a lot more than it'll help Ray Fisher. So I'm glad that we come to a term boycotting. You know, again, it's your money, but don't do it out of moral superiority because you're not. It's not.
It's very Fisher was at full. That's all I'm saying.
And one more thing too, I gotta kind of say this because I have to point this irony out. People are upset or trying to use Henry Cavill being cut from the movie. At least, like when I say cut, I mean like new footage of Cavill cut from the film. Yet Black Adam, you didn't support his return in Black Adam, so now you're trying to use Cavill as an excuse to boycott. Maybe you should have supported his return in Black Adam.
Yep, 100%. Because 100%. Look where we are now. We have a gunverse over here because you didn't go support Black Adam. So don't be so influenced by negativity. Like I've talked about this entire stream, how general movie-going audiences don't want to be associated with something that's being labeled as not good or bad, right? And they're so easily swayed. They're just fans. They want to go see a movie, but they don't want to be chastised for liking something. I get that. But use your critical thinking skills because, like I said, this movement has been infiltrated by a lot of people who are not genuine and are not Zack Snyder fans. So go to the movies and have a good time. Don't worry about this negativity. Don't worry about this controversy. Don't worry about that because I trust me, the movie will win you over right here where it counts. This is what gives us life. And this is why we watch movies, because we need to feel this. We need to remember what this is like. We need to feel this beat. And the Flash movie will get that. It'll get you pump it. Let me tell you. I'm excited just thinking about it.
And it's SnyderVerse, though, right? Like this movie is definitely
100.
Do they have references?
Yep. multiple references. And there are
Okay.
some things that I already like. I'm going to preface to say we don't know when this movie takes place. There's a new Batfleck suit. There's a new Barry Allen suit. And there's really no, this is, I guess, minor spoiler, but there's really no explanation about the new suit. But Andy Muschietti developed, I don't know if you know about this, Bat Dan. There's a comic book limited series called Flash, the Fastest Man Alive, that has Ben Affleck, Batman, and Ezra Miller in it. The art style is a little wacky, but it came out, I think, last month in May. It started actually in April, and then I think it concluded in May. And that apparently, I have them, but I haven't read them. I actually bought all three, but that explains why the suit is needed and what function it has. So if you're gonna say, well, this means like if Wonder Woman does this, Wonder Woman did this in 84, so that means Wonder Woman's this. Like, we don't know how much time has passed between. Well, actually, they do. Now that I think about it, Iris West reveals how much time, and it's years.
That can
So,
change in then.
there's a lot that can happen with all these people. So if you're going to point out, oh, Wonder Woman doing this means this, you don't know what happened off screen. So that's all I'm going to say.
I guess we'll jump straight to, so in the part of this wrap up, we'll do your rating. What score, and factoring in that it's not complete, you can kind of factor that in if you want. Factoring that in, what score would you give the movie?
So score. Okay, what I won't do is I will not rank. And I've said this in live chats, which I probably shouldn't, but I started to rank it as my top 3. And then people are like, well, what's your top, and I'm like, because it's not complete and it's not finished, I'm not going to rank it.
Okay.
As far as score, I'm going to be a little generous because it's not the, finished movie. But from the experience I had, I'm going to give it an 8.9 as of right now. But I reserve to change that because I want to leave wiggle room, because I think I'm looking at my toy shelf right now and I'm looking at characters on there that I've imagined to show up on screen together. And who's to say that might happen in the final cut? So I'm lowering it. I'm being generous, but I'm lowering it for wiggle room because I feel like there is potential to really, the movie is already mind-blowing and blew me away and I loved it, but they could do something to really make all of us be like, this is the best superhero movie of all time. In my opinion, it is the best movie of the year from what I've seen. And so I'll go 8.9 as of right now, but I reserve to change that June 12th when I go see this. I'm actually going to meet El Necron at a theater close to me, and we're going to see it together because he's
Nice.
in the state. So after you see it, we need to talk, Bat Dan, because I need to know what you think of this authentically. Even if you hate it, you know that I loved it and you hate it, I would love to hear what you think and why you feel the way you feel. But I think you're gonna like it. I'm really gonna like it.
I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna do 2 videos on my channel for Flash reviews. I'll do a non-spoiler review and a spoiler review. Well, okay, we'll see, because life gets in the way. So if enough time passes, I might not end up doing the spoiler-free review. But you'll at least get a spoiler review. So we'll see how that.
Notifications on. Notifications on.
Notifications on, and I'll preach that message at the end too. But anything you want to kind of say to wrap up this Flash topic?
I loved it. I mean, like I said, it's the movie of the year. I've seen everything. I saw Guardians. I saw SnyderVerse. I've seen what else came out this year? Oh, I don't even know. Little Mermaid. I've seen Little Mermaid. I saw Ant-Man. I'm biased. I'm gonna say that. I'm a DC guy. That's my number one. For me, the pantheon is Batman, and then that is my entrance into pop culture because of Adam West, boom, pow, wham, whack, and everything else kind of falls in line after him. I love Marvel because of Spider-Man and X-Men. I'm almost more of an X-Men fan than a Spider-Man fan, but Spider-Man as a singular entity is, amazing. But it really was better than Spider-Verse in my opinion, and I know people are blown away by Spider-Verse. So I have to, you'll have to give me your. Maybe you don't agree with me that maybe you thought Spider-Verse is better, but I've heard some predominant YouTubers say they're the same movie, and having seen Spider-Verse twice, there are elements, I'm sure, that are similar, because I don't know if you know this, Phil Lord and Chris Miller were writing a treatment on The Flash. Before. Okay. They were one of the writers that got changed. So there are definitely elements that are similar, but they are not the same movie and they are not the same story. But there's elements like that. But yeah, I loved it. Go see the movie. Judge for yourself. Use your own mind, your own opinion. Don't let anyone else influence. Don't even let me influence you. You're just listening to some rando from the internet talk for 3 hours about geeky pop culture shit. But I'm just telling you my experience, and I loved it. So if that helps you make your decision, take it or leave it. But make up your own mind. But go see the movie.
Yeah, see the movie and judge for yourself. That's what I say. If you think it's a movie you might be interested in, see it for yourself. And if you don't like it, you don't like it, but at least give it a chance. Yeah. And I guess just kind of to end this, I guess, what do you have coming up? Is there anything big that you have coming up?
No, I've just been very active in this. I don't have a YouTube channel or anything. I'm just guys. I'm done. Thank you for letting me ramble on your channel for 3 hours, because I'm literally a nobody, just a passionate fan. I attended Full Circle, met up with Still and Sky, and you guys have all just really embraced me. I'm a total stranger, but I feel like I know you guys because I've been watching you guys. I'm really impressed with the channel, what you've done in the short time. You've only been around, what, like 5 months or so?
I started in being active on my channel in technically this channel's 10 years old, because I have a skydive video on my channel where I skydive just like Batman. But
okay.
I didn't, and so that's been the video that's been on this channel. But then in July of last year, I did my first video of Batman's Thoughts. That's when I renamed the channel Batman's Thoughts, and so it's been around for a while, and I've been getting more and more active on it. I started doing live streams this year.
All right.
So,
and it's been awesome getting to know you. You're one of the persons, I'm more familiar with Sil and his channel, and I've seen Sky, and I feel bad. I talked to Leon, but I didn't know that was Leon because I didn't ever see him. So I felt bad. I DM'd him afterwards.
He's a logo.
So he was just he was a cool guy just with black shades. And I was talking to Sil and Sky and him, and then he was there. And I was talking to all of them, but I didn't know that was Leon. So I was like, oh my God. Afterwards I was DMing him, and I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't even I know who you are. Well, I don't know who you are, but I know you. So, but yeah, I really don't have anything coming up other than supporting you guys. I watch every SnyderVerse fan YouTube channel. I try to. There's not enough hours in the day to watch everything, but I just caught up on your birthday stream. Congratulations. That's amazing. You're going to be in a comic book, Dreamwalker. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out, and amazing what Mikey's got going on. I'm just going to be hanging out with you guys and chatting on streams and going to see The Flash multiple times. I have several screenings. I'm seeing it June 12th for the first screening to see the final cut. I'm seeing it the Thursday that you are, but I'm seeing it in 4DX with moving seats. And then I'm taking my family to see it on June 17th because we had watched the Snyder Cut today, and they are 100% sold. They loved the Snyder Cut, specifically because of Barry Allen's Flash. That was the moment that I have videos. I still got to post on my Instagram of reactions of theirs. I took videos while they were watching certain scenes. So I am so excited to see the movie and this summer. And I'm going to see multiple movies other than The Flash, but The Flash is the one for me that's really worth it. So that's what I got going on.
And it's really been a pleasure having you on, just really getting to know you, because you've come on, you've really brought this sense of positivity, and just seeing the way you were talking about The Flash, I really just wanted to get you on to really discuss your thoughts on it. So thank you. I really appreciate you coming on, getting some positivity on here, because I think that's needed right now in this time. There's too much negativity in social media, and we just don't need it. I mean, if you're that desperate for a movie to fail, you got to rethink your priorities. I'm just gonna say that. Like,
do you want these or not? That's
exactly. You want to boycott for Cavill and Ray Fisher? Well, if you want to see them in their roles again, just think about that. And on my channel, I'm going to be hyping up the Flash movie a lot. I'm going to again watch Back to the Future and rewatch Batman 1989. Get those reviews up, and I'm going to try to get something together with the good Austin to do a kind of a pre-hype stream, since he's a big Flash fan, so I have to get him on my channel to talk Flash at some point.
Yes,
and
I'm very interested to hear both of y'all's thoughts.
And I will be also getting Across the SnyderVerse review in at some point. I don't know if that's going to be a Bat Dance Thoughts or a Bat Dance Discussions. That just depends. But yeah, so a lot of great stuff coming up on my channel. And again, if you're watching this on replay, I should have Josh's handles in the description. So check that out. And guys, if you like this video, please. Oh, and also before I give the normal outro, don't forget, guys, Martian Manhunter shirts in the description. Yes. Money goes to AFSP, so it's a very worthy cause. And shout out to the Cool Table for getting that out there. And it's remember, this is why we fight. And please, guys, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss another episode, and leave a comment. So, hold up, we got someone who just popped in at the 11th hour.
Hey, Retro.
What up? Yep. It will be on replay, so catch that out, Retro Nord Girl. Thanks for stopping by.
Good to see you.
And again, leave a comment after you see it. Just tell us your thoughts on it. And lastly, have a bat-tastic day.